Where am I hearing the backup at? Are you hearing that?
I am.
Where am I hearing the backup at? Is it my... hold on. It might be my home screen. Just a minute. Oh, yeah.
Yes, echo.
We were playing videos. Hello, remember? And so I forgot to mute it because I like to be able to read on the white screen because it's easier on my eyes than the black screen is. So without further ado, we are going to talk about Atlantis. Actually, Atlantis is an offshoot. So let's start actually with Lemuria. And let's even go back a little further than that. And let's talk about the realm in which they inhabited, which today we see in a physical sense as a physical representation being an asteroid belt between Saturn and Jupiter, which would have been what we would call the fifth planet if planets existed, whether you're flat or if you believe it's round. I don't care. Doesn't matter in the conversation that we're having. We do have a physical representation, which is a field of rocks in the place of where a planet may have existed in the past.
Is that the asteroid belt that in the heliocentric model they say that Tiamat hit Earth.
Tiamat is another name that they use for Maldek. Mm-hmm.
And it hit Earth. That created the moon and the
Mount Shasta,
everything that blew off when Tiamat was hit. Earth, what is now Earth, is like what was remaining, the remainder of that planet, and then that asteroid belt is all the debris. That's what they say. Is it that asteroid belt? I can't remember what it's called. It's got a name, hasn't it?
Yes, it does. And the easiest way to think about it is, we're like third rock from the sun, right? Okay. Fourth is Saturn, or I'm sorry, Mars. I don't know why I keep saying Saturn. Okay, Mars. And then between Mars and Jupiter, there is a field, an asteroid field.
Yeah.
So, and when people say, oh, I've been to, they say, oh, I've been on a ship, we flew out and we went to Jupiter, we went to blah, blah, blah. How'd you get through the asteroid belt? Tell me your secret. Now, I know as the way we're designed in our being, through our Merkaba, we can shoot right through. Okay. But they're talking about a physicality ship all on a little voyage together, like on Gilligan's Island, a 3-hour tour. Anyways, how are you getting through the asteroid belt in this metal, rocket propelled, ancient Gnosis ship or old knowledge, old beat up equipment? If we can't even get to our own moon now, how are they getting through that field? Okay. Anyways, so let's start there. We can call it Telemos, or because they did actually name the underground tunnels that the Gnosis was stored in, allegedly in Mount Shasta, Telos. So, or Temek is, I think, is what you call that place. But Maldek was the name that, when I was doing research, that realm in which they existed, which would
Maldek or Belbek?
Maldek. So, with that being said, you just think about it. It's fifth. We're third, and we are 3D. We live in the third density. That would be 5. They would have lived in the fifth density. They were a more civilized, or not more civilized, more advanced being. They understood their spirituality. They toggled back and forth into the ether. They developed robotics to do the daily menial tasks and they also developed weather control. They never had famine. They didn't have lack. They didn't have these kind of daily issues in which that in the third density that we don't, we have problems with or whatever. Now, whether or not we've got weather manipulation, that's for debate. The truthers talk about that. That's not what this topic is about. But they did have such things. They were very advanced technologically. And they spent their days in the sun, and they spent their days philosophy. They spent their days traveling and,
self-improvement.
And advancement and growing and reaching and going to these other realms of existence and toggling back and forth.
Evolution, in a sense, like evolving in a sense.
They were able to, yes, they were, they started just like the civilizations that were here. They started. And as time went on, they went through their enlightenment. They didn't start off as monkeys. Okay, so let's get that out of our head right now. Man starts out in one status and has a natural progression of evolution. Okay, and we grow. And as we grow, we bloom. Just like you were talking about, that earth is like a garden and it's like a nursery. When you said nursery, I went ahead and put it together with plants being watered, which it is like that. We're being watered, and it's time for us now to stop being in a nursery or nursery type status, because we're at an age, a precipice. We're at a cusp of we're coming into a new paradigm. And so I want to kind of tell it how I was, how this is hypothesis. I want to just say it's hypothesis. Take it how you will. If you've read the book of Enoch, you may be able to follow along very well and understand what is being transpired. Even if you've read the book of Genesis, you may be able to see and connect the dots also. Because what the hypothesis here is, we're going to present what has been revealed that seems to have made it into the ancient texts, and how this gnosis has been kept hidden in plain sight, buried under shrouds of secrecy, but they always have to tell us what their plans are. Okay, so that we look at it as it is the fifth realm or planet, which is now an asteroid field. Okay, they destroyed it. They got into weaponry because as they were toggling in and out of these different realms, they felt, well, maybe we might need to defend ourselves if somebody tries to come into our realm. Thoughts started coming into their mind. It only takes one. Let me express this. I can't express this enough. It only takes one being to have a creepy thought, or those black bugs like I saw on these people's head swirling about on their mind, for them to conceive of an enemy, and therefore they will project it, create it, and that enemy will then taunt them, and then they'll tell others, and then they will start creating it because they'll believe them. It's a domino effect.
Is that how Satan was created?
That's how, yes, we're going to get there. That's why we need to stand. We need to stand in our sovereignty and in our awareness and hold on to our crown, which is our head, our mind, our consciousness, and have authority over it. Okay, so we've got this planet that it was presented to me as Maldek. It was the fifth one out from the sun, fifth realm, fifth planet, which is now an asteroid field. They developed weaponry. Apparently, during the testings of this weaponry, they destroyed and killed every being on that planet instantly. They went right into the ether realm. Now, remember, not all of them were bad, okay? Not all of them were bad. But when you're in the ether realm, the unseen realm, you are able to see things that you cannot see with our 3D eyes. There is a council. People will, it's even talked about in the Bible, that you'll stand before the Lord in the court, and be pronounced, and and the books will be opened, Okay, so there's a council. Well, the Lemurians went to the council and said, hey, let us fall onto a lower realm. Come into this realm forgetting. and allow us to ascend back up, working off our karma from destroying our own realm, from our own insecurities, from our own creations, from our own imaginations.
To learn from our own mistakes.
Exactly. So they came and they had a continent, and it was, between on the Pacific side, Pacific Ocean, called Lemuria. Okay. So now we understand that they had their own realm, which was fifth density. And we understand that we as mankind are walking into the dawn of the age of Aquarius, the dawning of the fifth density, the 5D realm. But when you, and I will send that to you, Double O, and let you go ahead and listen to it. When during that session, I do begin to debate a little bit with my practitioner about where mankind, we are all one, even though we're sovereign and unique, and there's only one of you. Some are reaching fifth, ninth, 12th density. With that being said, it makes fifth density seem kind of small, doesn't it? When we have beings that are walking amongst us that are reaching realms of that level. Now, here in the now. Okay, so they came, they were born in remembering to forget, just like how we come in. We have to forget. It's like a mind wipe. If you've had a life before and you have to come back, you come in like brand new, everything wiped clean slate, and you have to start over. The karmic debt, the balance sheets, those are still there. And when you have that zero balance, you graduate. Okay. Anyways, this isn't what this is about today. We're going to stick with the Lemurian, Atlantean tie-ins to the biblical doctrines and the ancient texts that are present and prevalent around the world today. They had the continent of Lemuria. They ascended back. They remembered. And they became what would be known as the first, they like to say, oh, America is like the first, the best. Okay. But that's what it was. These beings ascended to a level that there was already inhabitants here. Okay. They were going through their own evolutionary periods, their own evolvement in their own time at their own pace, just like the Lemurians did on their planet. They went through as a whole. Sorry, I didn't mean to say planet, realm. They went through as a whole when they went to fifth density, but there was, some that were going into 7 and into 9 and into 12. But as a whole, they moved together in conjunction to the fifth. Then they destroyed it. They fell down. As I, saw Satan in the sky, he fell from heaven to earth. Okay. Think about what you would be looking at as a civilization that's not quite evolved. You're pretty new. And you're watching such a spectacle in the sky. It looks like a bunch of balls of fire are coming down and raining upon you. And then these new beings show up. What are you to think, right? You don't understand. But they were kept separate. They were on their own continent surrounded by water. Okay. As time progressed, there was a fraction of them that wanted to break off. They did go ahead. They stuck with the spirituality. They understood how to reach into these different parallels and stuff using their Merkaba or their bubble, or however it is you feel that, you astral travel, your light body, whatever, I don't like to get hung up on the labels. Okay. So they were still always doing the inner work. But they were also going ahead and advancing technologically. I can't copy and paste that, Richie. Would you please go ahead and put that in the chat if anybody's in there? Richie's having some financial issues. I'm going to pin it at the top. I'm having financial issues too. We can always use the help, but his PayPal is going to be pinned at the top of the chat. And if anybody can help him out, and I'll bring that up a couple times throughout the show, if that will not embarrass you, Richie. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if things weren't the way they are, he's telling me that I'm basically, if I don't come up with some money by tomorrow, I'm on the street. So, yeah.
So anything, $1, anything will help. Anything. So, anyways, all right. So now here they are on the third density, amongst other beings who inhabited this place first. Now they evolved and were restored. So they became like what you would call the first, like a first civilization. They were more advanced, more evolved. They knew about technology. They again dabbled with space flight crafts, not like airplanes, not like what we have, different types. Like they didn't use fuels or fossil fuels and things of that nature. Everything was done with magnetics or using air energy that's already, like the current, the energy that's in the air is electrical. It is able to be transformed into lighting up a home or other means. So they got into all of that. Well, there was a faction of them, and let's say it was a third. We could say, because there was enough of them that they went and inhabited a continent of their own on the other ocean in the Atlantic, and they were called Atlantis. Okay. Now, when they brought up that Admiral Byrd had found some remnants, and he swore that he had found the lost city of Atlantis, he found it in the Pacific Ocean. But it would go to say that it would be similar because although they were in Atlantic or Atlantis, they were still Lemurian. They were still beings of the same race. They just had different ideals, or a few had different ideals. Just because one or a group maybe had some ideals doesn't mean that everybody on that continent felt the same way about the things that transpired. Everything was fine with the break off as long as they, stayed on their continent. It's part of the deal about coming here to work off their karma was to stay separated from the civilizations that were evolving naturally. So as long as they stayed on their little continent, and Lemuria stayed on their little continent and didn't interfere with the affairs of the other beings inhabiting this realm, everything was good. Well, so we've touched on, I beheld, Satan as he fell from the sky. And then we talk about, a third of them went over to inhabit another continent called Atlantis. Now, the Atlantean people, had the robotics, control of the weather, they had their crafts, and had this problem with knowing that there was lesser evolved civilizations that destroyed the realm in which they existed before, needing to protect themselves. They began to develop weaponry. When they began to develop weaponry, so did Lemuria, because Lemuria can read thought. You got to understand, when we go to 5th, 7th, 9th, 12th density, we will talk without moving our mouths. We don't have to move our mouths, just like energy flows through intention, through thought. And actually, Richie gave a really good example of case working on somebody in England, and acting like she was on his table and she's on her couch, and they recorded both simultaneously, and everywhere that he moved or worked on was the part of her body that responded as he was there. There is nothing that separates, or there's no time, space, distance in energy. Energy is a constant and it's neutral by nature until intention is set in it. Okay. So they started building this weaponry, and they decided that what they wanted to do was to, it's really kind of sad. They wanted to control the evolution of the lesser evolved beings that were inhabiting this realm long before they came. They wanted to oppress, withhold, forced labor. It's very heartbreaking when you think about it. It would be like parents that took their 5-year-old child and made them go and work in a sweatshop, kind of along that, and how we feel about children being abused. You need to think of these other civilizations as very new, like babes, very innocent, uncorrupted, and didn't understand, certain things. The Lemurians from the, on the continent on the Pacific said no. And they knew the people that were the Lemurians that were on the continent of Atlantis could not hide their plans because they knew that they could speak through thought. You can't hide your intentions when you can see right through, which is also in the Bible. Jesus spoke plainly about seeing the intentions in the Pharisees and calling them out on what their thoughts were. So it's not out of the scope of understanding. And as we evolve into the fifth and go further on, we'll understand even more about the power of thought and how we can communicate through just thinking. And everybody doesn't have to hear us. You can direct a conversation back and forth to one individual just through thought. It's very interesting.
I think it's something that we're able to do right now. We just don't recognize it when it happens.
Did you put it in there? Let me pin that. Oh, I can't pin it. Crap. Okay, what I got to do is how can I? It won't let me copy it either.
What are you?
There. I'll just put it up there. How's that? I want to pin it, but I want to be able. I want to be able to copy and paste it then and pin it, but I can't copy and paste it out of StreamYard. I'm sorry, you guys, for being distracted. We listened to my BQH session, and that's why we were a little late going live because I got pretty upset about my session. Richie, I'll tell you, I got pretty upset.
So you got upset. You didn't get upset. You got frustrated.
Mm-hmm. Something along those lines.
Just disappointed, but not. It was sort of disappointed. Well, not disappointed, but you realized things even more. You sort of knew it before, and then it was like, oh wow, you can really see it now. But,
oh yeah. When I clicked me up, at least 10 clicks on me, and I clicked her down at least 5 clicks. Able to hear her. I was, first of all, it's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy stuff, just crazy. But anyways, let's not get back into this. We'll try and stay on topic because I'm kind of like, I didn't get to ground out before we went live after that, so sorry. Okay, so now we have a what you would call a higher, a more evolved civilization inhabiting a realm of other civilizations that are and were present before this other civilization came and encroached into their space, and now broke a third off over into another continent called Atlantis that sought to have power and dominion over these lesser evolved beings. And the Lemurian continent, the Lemurian people that stayed on that continent, and the Atlantean continent, they went to war. And we hear about the spiritual war. We hear about the battles. We hear about.
Would that be like from the Ramayana, or the Indian Maharaja or whatever it is, the books, the Vedic books about the battles that took place?
When it comes to that kind of stuff, I have to claim ignorance, because even what I have, what I've learned, and what I've gleaned and grown from, it's all come from within. Besides the Bible, I've read the Bible cover to cover several times, and some of the extra biblical texts.
Okay, well, the Indian history teaches about basically that just these huge battles that took place, with, and then that's what destroyed everything, was these.
It caused a great flood.
Godlike beings with advanced technology, basically.
It made them seem like godlike beings because of the technology they used. If you were, you were 5 years old, and they're wielding this kind of technology, flying over you, doing all these, things, and fires coming down from the sky, you're like, oh my gosh, they've got godlike powers. You don't know.
And that's presented to us in Stargate, the whole the story that there was an advanced race that came down and pretended to be gods, and sort of convinced everybody that they were gods because they had advanced technology, when they weren't gods, they just had advanced technology.
Yes. Now, it did say that the Lemurians' age, how long they would live, would be about 20,000 years. Was an average lifespan, because they understood when you reach the level, the awareness of how your body works, this avatar, you understand DNA rejuvenation, cell restructure, and you're constantly your body is constantly rejuvenating, and it stays youthful much longer. But eventually you're going to want to evolve past, like when they were, in the fifth density, they would eventually want to graduate from the fifth density and stop being a traveler soldiering through these other realms of, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to where, it's infinite, that they would want to move on to the next. So you graduate. You passed and you graduate, but you stayed younger longer. They didn't age how we actually didn't age like we age today.
Our aging is all because of this switch in our DNA or whatever it is, that basically at the age 20, 21, it flicks over, and our cells stop regenerating. So it's perfectly logical.
Well, people are no longer taught. They're not taught that if you're angry with somebody, we're taught, like in little fables, don't go to bed mad, or don't let the night fall on your anger. We're told about these things. We're told to forgive, and even Christ says, "How many times do I forgive my brother? 7 times a day." He says, "No, 7 times 70." And so, if you're holding grudges against another being, you may be throwing some little fiery darts at them, but the damage that you're doing is to yourself.
Yeah. So
you're aging and causing dis-ease within your body.
Yes, disease. Yes, and things like cancer and stuff like that are manifestations of things that like unresolved issues, aren't they?
Yeah, things that we need to, work on: blockages, oppression, anger issues, unforgiveness,
Like anybody that harbors
jealousy.
hatred, anybody that's harboring hatred or unforgiveness for anybody, I think it would be a fair bet to say that they would be at a very high risk of getting cancer or heart disease or something like that, you know.
And sometimes, though, and we cannot take this off the table because we talked about this prior to coming on, that sometimes, we can ask the higher self whether or not they would like to take the healing energy. And it can say no, because they're here to have an expanded experience. Because from a lower low, you can reach a higher high, and your consciousness expands much wider from having said experience. So it's hard to discern whether it is from dis-ease unless you are the individual and you know that you've got anger or bitterness within you, or unforgiveness of yourself. Unforgiveness and not loving self is the biggest catalyst for aging and other afflictions: obesity, diabetes, liver problems, all kinds of different issues arise because we have forgotten how to even love ourselves. How can you love somebody else if we don't even know how to basically love ourselves? People say, oh, you've got a huge ego, so obviously you're just so in love with yourself. That's so far
Well,
from.
there's two different ways of loving yourself or loving anything, isn't there? Love isn't it's not that somebody that loves themselves because of narcissism, big egos and stuff. That's not love. That's
Narcissism
infatuation.
is a dis-ease in consciousness, a confusion in identity.
It's a word's gone out of my head.
Sorry.
Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, they think that it's all about them. They're the only ones that count, and because they feel like nobody else feels that way, so they should. It's a dis-ease within their mind.
It's like an obsession or an infatuation. It's not actually love. It's people that confuse love with lust and infatuation and obsession. They think that because they are obsessed with something, because they're completely obsessed with something, they can't get it out of their mind, and they think that means that they're in love.
They don't want it anymore.
And it doesn't. So many people don't seem to understand really what love actually is. To really love somebody, not just to find them attractive and want to take them to bed. To really, really love somebody, truly love them.
To truly love humanity to the point that you will come and suffer along with them to help anybody and everybody to come to the loving knowledge of truth of who they are. What kind of love is this? Jesus said this himself. He came here willingly to set an example, to teach the truth. And it had nothing to do with them catching him and killing him. He was trapped. He didn't vanish and toggle out because he was approached by one that walked with him and kissed him. So he didn't disappear because it was a friendly gesture of a hello, and then he was taken in. So that was the only way they could physically grab him, because remember, he used to disappear on them in the temple all the time when they were trying to capture him. He was able to get in and out of that Merkaba, just like Philip with the eunuch when he baptized him, in his body, and teleport and transport himself to wherever by thought. He was a master. We talked about that before we went on to that. Jesus is the master of all masters, and people should listen to his teachings and understand the parables and move through it. If you're Christian, my goodness, that's what we're supposed to be doing, right? So, okay, back to what happened with Atlantis and Lemuria. When they went to war, They were setting off again atomic weapons. They scorched the sky. They turned the water bitter. It caused great floods. The Lemurians knew catastrophe was coming because they could see. They knew it was coming. They just thought they had more time. They approached the council, got permission to store the gnosis and dig those tunnels in a place they call it today Telos. And what's interesting about what is stored in there, it kind of reminds me of what the Ark of the Covenant, right? It's not that you have to physically be there, because even they say you don't have to go for buried treasure. But as the time comes and the right time comes,
The
that
treasure will
what
reveal itself.
within us,
Yeah.
it will crop up within each of us inside of our being. It's amazing how, things, they just are so plain now and simplistic. When, of course, there was remnants of the Lemurians. They said 25,000 made it into the catacombs. But you got to understand this too, that there was Atlanteans that survived from this also and went on to the eastern shore, and then, continued kind of a dominion type of a realm. Now we can look at the second Genesis story, and where Adam was put in a garden, and everything was, remember, everything was created first, and then
Would this have been after Atlantis?
this would have been after. Yes, Atlantis was formed.
After the war. Right.
Yes. I'm not sure if it was during or after they sunk, or on that I wasn't given definite. But what happened in that instance was, if you go into the Bible, and it's so easy nowadays with technology that's been provided to us, we're able to go and look at the root words of what these words that are given to us in English under the interpretation, what they truly mean.
You can see all the true, because they have more than one meaning. All of the words have more than one meaning, and you're able to.
Garden has only one, and that is it's a prison. It's an enclosure. That's what a garden is. It is a prison. It is an enclosure. And they took him in there to work the ground. They wanted him to do the planting, and they wanted him to do the labor. So this may have been after, because of the soil had been spoiled from the weaponry that was used. So they might have found a sweet spot and wanted him to till it and grow the vegetation. So he was put into this garden. Now it's presented to us in the Bible as a paradise. And then
they've flipped it. They've totally turned that story on its head, because they in the story they say that he was in the garden was paradise, and then God cast him out to toil the field. But in this version, the garden is the prison where he was meant to toil the field. He came from paradise.
But the ground that he came when he left that area, after all of the weaponry, everything was the ground was spoiled. They couldn't grow. The civilizations that were here prior to the Lemurians coming were now left in a realm that had bitter water, had scorched skies. It rumbled and quaked. There was a great flood. There was a lot of fear put into these people. And if you look around all over the world, everybody pretty much has somewhere a flood story.
All of the major, they all have all of the major religions have a flood story, have a deluge. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I mean, some of them have more than one, don't they? But they've all got at least one deluge. I wonder
Yeah,
if that was the time when so if the ground, if the water on the surface of the earth was bitter because of
not
the
all of the
result of the
water,
no,
just the
but
around
but
the
the
continents. Yeah,
sweet water, so that the sweet water that was still good would have been buried underground as it is now. It still is today. It's still the sweet water is in the mountains, and
and it's underground, big.
and so it would make sense as like they would have gone underground during that time to escape the effects of the weapons and everything. That makes sense why they would have gone underground. And that
The Lemurians that got permission from the council, they had room for 200,000, but only 25,000 made it because of they sank in one day. Their continent sunk in one day, and it came much earlier. But they did get all of the knowledge, everything that they wanted, everything that was sacred and precious in there. But only 25,000 survived from that situation at that time rather than the 200 that could have fit 200,000 that could have fit in there. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so, and we have to understand that, the Atlanteans, uh, they have, people talk about this all the time. They see these odd crafts and they think alien, it's alien. What if it's not? What if it's actually terrestrial, guys? What if it is of this place, but not of this realm? What if it is like the sheets of paper, but or those that may still be in third density and they're flying their crafts because they had them. They had and they were not like what we fly around in today, like airplanes and stuff. They were generated completely different. The technology was completely different than what we are accustomed to today. And we consider ourselves as the number one and civilized beings. There's a possibility that there is a more advanced civilization living amongst us. Some are here to assist, and they've been slowly but surely tossing out anything malevolent, and also trapping them in their density, not allowing them to go in and toggle in and out to other realms anymore. So, okay, so then you can look at, when they came out of the garden, which that's what you're talking about. He felt like he was in paradise. He came out, and he came out into, it was rocky, the deserts, the rivers were different. The waters didn't flow like they did before because he was like, he couldn't find what he was calling the living waters that would come from the tree of life and things of that nature. Those are parables. But who was it that showed up in the garden as a shining one that they call a snake that was telling them, did God tell you? Who is this God, or who is proclaiming to you that they are a God that is telling you what you can and cannot do, what till the soil, do this, what you can and cannot wear, and what you can and cannot eat? Who is this God? And questioned it. And their eyes were open and realized they were naked. Was this that they were kept actually physically nude? I mean, we think of it as a parable, or, like the emperor has no clothes. Were they so innocent and so like a 5-year-old, and kept in a state that if they left that area, it would be so hard on their body physically because they wouldn't be able to handle the nuclear winter or the harsh conditions because they weren't allotted clothing? Something to think about. And who was the one that truly made them clothing? The stories
I
get kind of convoluted or distorted. There's truth. That's why it's rightly divide the word.
I have quite a strong perception of that particular parable, and it's all based on what the other meanings of certainly what the other meanings of the word translated as forbidden fruit. And it basically suggests quite strongly that the whole forbidden fruit thing was linked to sex, and in that sense it was all about the tantric, the energies that we can, the energy that is aroused within us when we get sexually aroused,
Them too.
and to create a new life between a man and a woman, get sexually aroused, have intercourse, and create a new life. And so tantric is all about not reaching that point and harnessing that energy and transmuting it up into the higher chakras instead of expelling it.
Okay, yeah. Opening your third eye. But see, you don't have to do that all the time, though. You could do that.
No. But I'm just saying that the story of Adam and Eve and them knowing that they were naked and the forbidden fruit and everything seems more to me like they were being shown. It came down to the physical. It came down to the physical, because in this realm, as physical beings, we feel our emotions. They become physical things. The energy, our bodies react to the energy physically. Certain energies will make us cry. Certain energies will make us laugh. Some energies will make us happy. Some will make us ecstatic. There's euphoria. All of these emotions that we actually feel as physical, as physical sensations, and it's all linked. It's all about that power, because that energy, that power that's aroused and created during that interaction, it's got the power to create. You create new life. Maybe that's maybe got something to do with where the spark of life comes from. But yeah, so the whole, my point is, the whole Adam and Eve story to me, and for a long time has been a sexual thing. And it's just that the Christians and Catholics, obviously sex is a sin. God, no, couldn't you? What, Adam and Eve having sex? What are you talking about? And it's very easily dismissed.
Well, yeah, I finally was able to copy your link. I'm more directing this towards the being that showed up there that said, "Did God say? Did God say that you are not to have this and that you are to do that?" And blah 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 blah. Okay, who is this God? Who is this one who is holding power over you? Who is it? Who is the one portraying themselves to be God? And remember what the big the things were that Atlantis wanted to have the power. They wanted to have dominion over the other lesser evolved civilizations. They wanted to control what they knew and basically stifle their evolution, keep them subservient. And
it would be fair to say, wouldn't it, that the mentality of those Lemurians was quite similar to the mentality of those people that are doing exactly that right now. And
who's to say that they're not amongst us today? Because I know you were talking about that, procreation. Well, it says that the sons of God, because of from a lesser evolved civilization with all the fire from the sky and all the things that they had witnessed, would be in fear, shaking, quaking in their boots at these beings that were able to do these phenomenal things that were godlike powers. They looked at them as they were like the sons of God, and that they found that the daughters of men were fair and took of them of wives. But really, in truth, they were beings. The beings, there's differences a little bit from the different, when you astral, you can see different little subtle differences, but mainly it's 2 legs, 2 arms, a being. So if they're here in the 3rd density and they come in with a mind wipe, and they would look very similar to us. They did
Humanoid.
gain in their gait, like they got taller, they got back up to the 12 to 14 foot stature when they evolved back to where they had fallen from. But as they devolved by the things of wanting to do to other sovereign beings, no matter what scale of evolution, they then began to shrink in their stature and size, and got down to 8 foot, then 7, and then 6 foot. So now they are same size as the average person would be in today's.
Actually, quite a lot of these ass hats are pretty short.
Yeah, I'm 2 inches tall because this is what I did. I don't know. So okay, so we got to the forbidden, and who was in the garden? Who's who? Who is who? Is it Yah's way or no way? Or is it Lucifer? Is it Lumerian, Lucifer, Lucy, Lilith? All of the ones with the L's. See, you ever notice that this paradigm seems to be inverted and backwards? What we hear is upside down and backwards. So if when we hear, like, even in history books, it says so and so won the war, and then you find out later, as the facts roll out, that no, they didn't. They didn't win the war at all. Let's
talk about World War II. No, let's not.
Well, I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, history is written, and then it's believed and it's perceived by the victor of what? Because if they didn't win, how could they? They can't write and say that they are the victor, because they really didn't. They didn't win. What they do is they wait a couple hundred years and then fabricate. They change things. They tweak, manipulate.
Which is exactly what I've been saying has been happening. They've been rewriting history, and then events. They've been causing events to then erase that knowledge from the people who are carrying it. So, like, get rid of the people that are carrying that knowledge and experience, the older generations, young man and whatever, sending them off to wars. And then whether they send all the adults off to war, all the kids are left back, sent off on orphan trains, off to go and be re-educated and sent off to schools and that. And they get separated from their families, separated from the people that had the original knowledge, and then they can be reprogrammed with the new knowledge. And it's only going to take 2 or 3 generations to completely rewrite history.
It only takes 1 generation to change things. Teach their children.
It can take 1 generation to change things, but 2 or 3 to completely rewrite history. Right, I think they've done it more than once. I think they've totally rewritten history more than once.
And Sweet Change, what needs to be understood here is that although we have, we hear a lot about the lost continent of Atlantis. Let's find the lost continent. Oh, the technology, all excited. They are all of the same race. They were all Lemurians. They all, they settled into a continent of Lemuria after they had destroyed their own realm. And so they came here to make up their karma, but they had to come in with the mind wipe or whatever, like we do, and they wanted to work off their karmic debt for what happened in their own realm. And they went ahead and remembered and evolved exceedingly when there was already people here. And here's the thing. Okay, a lot of people bring this question up, and really pastors, and they don't have an answer. When Cain says that, when Adam has to send him away because he killed Abel, okay, he sends him away, and Cain complains. He says, they will kill me. Who the heck are they? Who are they? If they're the only people, if Adam and Eve, and then you've got Cain and Abel, and then Cain killed Abel, and then they had another son after. Who is they?
I mean, they do this a lot in the Bible, though, don't they? It's done right at the beginning when they say, "Let us create him in our image," and then when after the flood, Noah and his wives, like we hear all about Noah and his sons, but Noah was chosen, but his wives were not. His wife was not chosen. She was not actually named by God to get onto the. It was his sons, their wives. It was like there was more than one. It wasn't just Noah and his wife and their sons. It was his sons' wives as well, wasn't it? They were married before they got onto the thing. So they tell us in the Bible that Noah was chosen because he was the most righteous and whatever, but it doesn't actually say that all of them are. So it says that even though God said, "I'm only going to save you because you're the most righteous," he doesn't. He saves him and a couple of others as well. And it also says that there were giants on this land before and after, but the flood was supposed to be sent to wipe all the giants out, to wipe that out completely. That's what the story in the Bible is, that God sent the flood
because that's what they wanted.
Everything.
They wanted anybody that was standing 12 to 14 foot in stature, because that means that they were evolved. They understood the oneness. They had unconditional love, compassion, and would not mess with the evolution of another divine sovereign being.
No,
even if they are at the mentality and the maturity of a 5-year-old, they would not get in the way of their evolution. Period.
We've had that's another story that's been flipped on its ass, because we've been made to believe that the giants were terrible, horrible creatures that ate humans and they steal babies, and they're destructive, terrible creatures. You get one story, the BFG, the big friendly giant, and then that gets totally trashed by people saying it's all linked, that it's got really insidious.
But the interesting thing is what was noticeable about it is when they were evolving, they evolved together. So when their stature changed, it wasn't one, it was all. So it's like, okay, as we are evolving as humanity, our stature, our build, our bodies are already changing. The Mandela effect, if anything, is already proving that. We're losing weight. We're getting more fit. My eating habits haven't changed, but I can eat like a 20 times a day and I can't gain any weight. I'm staying the same size.
It's funny, Michelle, because a lot of people look like they're getting younger. And exactly, they're losing weight. They look like they're getting younger. Mm-hmm. You particularly, you definitely look 20 years younger than.
And I suffered a hard blow, a devastating blow.
Yeah, like 10 or 15 years ago might have aged you. or anybody else, if that were to happen to my mum, it would age her.
Well, it
She
did
would
age.
age 20 years, you know. It's like, and like my parents both, everybody said that my parents aged when my accident happened and I was in hospital, and they thought I was going to die for a bit. So and they aged but now, because things are different, you look younger. Well, I was going to say to you earlier that you're younger than my mum, but you're definitely younger than my mum, because my mum's 60. She's 63 now.
Okay.
No, I'm 10
Don't
years
you give
younger than
my
you.
age away, because I will go over there and slap the snot out of
I'm
you.
around 4 years younger than you, and and my mum
No,
is
you're
10
not.
years older than you.
You're 6.
So, but when she was the same age as you, she looked she looked older than you do. You don't look your age, is what I'm saying. You don't look.
Well,
Not.
if anything, what I can tell you is my heart, it was crushed, destroyed, depression, sadness, guttural cries, just in total daze. But when things are activated in us, we never lose the portion that we are given. Never. Once it is given to you, it is without repentance. What is activated will stay activated. We could hit pause and not grow any further until we're ready to move forward. But we don't lose what we've already been given. I can attest to that. I can testify to that, because I'm living proof of that.
I would say,
Hi, Debbie.
so long as you continue to follow the path that you're on. If you were to regress and dip back into old habits, into an old version of yourself.
Habits as in physical habits, or mental and emotional and spiritual habits?
As in all of it, as in if you were to move into a previous version of yourself, like when you didn't have the inner standing that you have now. If you were to regress back, then you might need to do that work again to be able to would it be that you'd need to do that work again? You might not need to do as much. It might be like muscle memory, where you don't need to do as much work the next time.
We all fall. It's how we get back up that matters. Do we blame others for our fall?
It's if you get back up. It's if you get back up,
gets back up.
How you do it, how you behave, and how you respond to what's happened to you.
That's right. That was said to in that session that you got to hear a little bit about that the pendulum thing, about how how I respond to certain things, how I perceived, I observe it, and how I perceived it, and how I handled it made all the difference in the world on my perception, where I was just seeing, I'm just looking into this, looking into that. And I wasn't realizing that the pendulum had swung so far over to the other direction that something really bad really happened, because I wasn't holding on to it. I didn't allow it to take root. It's what we allow to take root in us that makes the difference. Okay, let's get back on topic with Lemuria and Atlantis, because here's the deal, you guys. Do you feel, and I mean, I'm talking now in your solar plexus, your gut instinct, your sixth sense, you are a sentient being, you're conscious, you are unique in every way, shape, and form, that there are Atlantean constructs in place today.
When you say constructs, what do you mean?
I mean structures of control, because that's what they wanted. They wanted to control the lesser evolved civilizations. They wanted to only give a little bit of the gnosis to whomever they chose and keep it, what they had. But what they didn't realize is they stunted their own growth and stayed stagnant, where the others continued to evolve that were on the continent of Lemuria. That's how they were able to see and plan ahead for the coming catastrophe. The others were then they were losing sight. They were losing their abilities to see.
So it could be fair to assume then that the selfish aspect, the Lemurians that had bad intent, selfish intent, there's an aspect of their, it's either them or it's the remaining consciousness or whatever, the spirits, that's who the elites that have got there through sacred knowledge from
Technology.
Freemasonry, and so I mean the Freemasons got their knowledge from the.
And think about what that's saying right there: Freemasonry, building technology. Hello, secret technology.
So they, I mean, it's all linked to the Knights of Templar. It's every single war that's taken place. They've gone and ransacked sacred sites, and basically stolen all the knowledge. They made us believe that the treasure and the wealth was diamonds and gold, and it wasn't. It was never diamonds and gold. The wealth and the treasure was always the knowledge and the technology. And so people will say that they're, that it's aliens that they're talking to, or it's demons or whatever, but it makes sense that it's Atlanteans. I've said for a long time that there is a
hold on, there's Lemurians here too. Don't forget.
But the Atlanteans were Lemurian.
But there was 25,000 that did make it into what they called the city of Telos with the knowledge. And they are assisting. They're present.
But the ones that weren't, the ones that.
But we have free will.
The ones that got embroiled in the war, or in the in the destruction. How many of them survived? If they live for 25,000, if their lifespan is 25,000 years,
I read 20, so but 25 fine.
It's 2,500. So, how many of them are still alive? Are they the ones that are influencing the people that are basically?
Could they still be alive today? You know what? If we're thinking about that, it says that the continent was the Lemurian continent sunk in 12,000 BC, and we're at 2,000 AD.
That was the Lemurian continent. But what about Atlantis? When did Atlantis go?
Shortly after, within 100 years. But they went off in chunks because of all the quakes and they just their ground was unstable.
Atlantis.
Yes.
Yeah, Madame Blavatsky, Helena Blavatsky says
it's like it would heat up certain people at a certain time. It was odd.
She came across literature that stated that there was the continent between the Americas and Europe sunk, or it sunk in stages. Mm-hmm. and there was a stage where there was like just the tops of the mountains. There was like you couldn't go there because it was so muddy and rocky, and there was nothing could exist there, but there was still the remnants of the land before it sunk completely. Mm-hmm. Yes. And you couldn't, so it affected the shipping between the Americas and Europe, but you couldn't stop there, kind of thing. You had to they had to go around it, or it's actually stopped the travel for a while. It stopped the travel between the Americas and Europe. And then that ties in then with the theory that when we came from Europe to the Americas, that it was already inhabited. There were already civilizations in the Americas, but they were the remnants of, like, they were the remainders of of the previous civilizations. So they still held the knowledge. They still passed the knowledge down, and then we came in and destroyed it.
Now, what we're kind of skirting over here is to know the power that each of us hold within. Each of us, there's a reason that the group that splintered off from Lemuria went to Atlantis and wanted control over these civilizations. They understood the power that was held in each being, even within themselves. They knew the power that each of them had as a sovereign being and what they were able to do. Get a group together, get them thinking alike, like a hive, and they will create the world that you want to live in.
Right. And you know what?
Top tier down type of a situation.
Right. And that is referenced, it specifically referenced in Assassin's Creed 2 at the end of when they, so he's going through and he's speaking to Juno. Juno's telling him what happened. They're the Lemurians. They are the Lemurians, and she's saying, oh God, that's just gone out of my head.
And even when people talk about different alien species like Pleiadians, we're just talking about constellations or realms, and we're talking about different levels of consciousness.
There's this thing in Assassin's Creed. It's all about the apple of Eden, right? They've got to find the apple of Eden because the apple of Eden's got these powers. Juno's telling Desmond, the guy that's found it, she's saying that they created this device that gave them control over other people. It allowed them to control other people. But one day they realized that if they used the device and got the people to focus on something, that they could create it through using this device. They get everybody, if they could get enough people to focus on something, they could create it using this device. And the idea was to create a lot of these devices, float them up into the sky, ask the question or make the statement, keep us safe.
Make fire fall from the heavens. Make yourself look as if you have godlike powers. Demand that these people worship you and do your bidding, and get them all to think alike. In
the Assassin's Creed story, they're trying to say that Juno she was trying to portray herself as being benevolent and saying that the reasons for doing it were benevolent, just to keep everybody safe. But then you find out at the very end of it, when Desmond dies, you see that Juno's actually got a bit of a malevolent side, and perhaps their intentions weren't, her good intentions were not sincere. But it basically, it's referencing a technology that allowed them to harness the power of individuals. So they've done it again in that story. They've done it again, and they've taken that power out. Like they've said, "Oh no, it's not a power that we've got inside us. This is only a power that's it's in this apple of Eden thing. That it's in an object, a material object
They're trying to outsource responsibility for their own behavior.
In the same way that the Catholics said that God isn't within you, God is, made God into this unreachable, untouchable being outside of the real realm that, that judges us or whatever, when all the time the power is within you. God is within you, the power of God is within you, Jesus is in your heart, all of these things. They're constant. One side's trying to tell us that the power is elsewhere, and then the other side's saying no, the power's with you.
And we talked about Metatron earlier, and Metatron is ascended. He's like one of the highest ranking, probably, of, we talk about realms of achievement, but he was just like us, and he evolved out of here. And the reason I'm bringing him up, even though it's off topic, is because she said, well, thanks that she bathed in the full moon, cleansed her crystals last night. Now, crystals, I know a lot of people are like, oh, crystals actually do store memory. If you were to actually take a look at, like, when Jesus talks about the books of life, or others will call it the Akashic records, or the stores of all of these different realms and the evolution, what's going on, what's actually transpired, the truth. There's only truth in these crystals. They can't hold anything that's false. The truth is in and is stored within these precious stones. If you can get your hand on a crystal, you can feel the energy of what happened and get the truth from the crystal through your own energy and vibration.
They point to that with Superman and there's the ice palace home of Superman, when he goes to the North Pole or whatever, and he puts the crystal.
I know it doesn't look like that though.
He puts the crystal into the snow, and it grows up, and each crystal he puts in to the thing, it's like a drive, it's like a disk drive. He puts a crystal in, and his dad appears, and it's a recording of his dad talking to him. So they've already told us that that information can be stored within crystal, and we know that already because they use quartz crystal
and gold in technology.
Mm-hmm. Why would they use quartz crystal? It's very specifically quartz crystal. So all crystals, each like, or is quartz the only crystal? Because
no,
a ruby is not a crystal. A ruby is a ruby, isn't it? It's a stone. It's a precious stone.
And so is a crystal.
Sorry?
So is a crystal.
Crystal is silicon. Yeah, it's a stone, but it's the way it forms is different, isn't it? The way you
can look at it this way. Like, if you can fake make the gem, then it really has no value. If you cannot fake make, in other words, like, it's so comparable to the real that you would.
So rubies and emeralds and diamonds
are the only ones you can really fake make, because they take the coal and they compress it in a machine, and they actually make what they call the cubic zirconium. So they fake make.
Yeah, they actually make fake make. Yeah, whereas a fake ruby is just glass. It's not a fake ruby.
Right.
No, you can grow. Right. You can grow.
If you can grow a ruby, well, then that wouldn't be fake. I'm talking about taking a lump of coal and they compress it in a machine and they make a cubic zirconium fake diamond. Fake make using technology, not grow.
Yeah. Force, it's basically sort of.
You notice, though, when they talk about the breastplates and stuff that are on the Levitical, they don't say diamond ever. I hear an echo.
Say that again.
They don't. There's no mention of diamonds being on the breastplate of the Levitical when they're talking about the uh, when they were wandering around in the desert and they appointed the Levitical because Aaron's rod bloomed or whatever. His line was the priesthood. They would wear these breastplates and they had precious stones, crystals, gems, but diamonds aren't mentioned. And even when it talks about New Jerusalem coming from heaven, diamonds are not mentioned.
No, diamonds are only mentioned by
I'm
the
talking
elite.
I'm talking biblical now in the Bible.
Yeah, but that's what. But it's like diamonds actually only become. People only think of diamonds in one way. It's like, and the whole diamonds are a girl's best friend, and diamonds are forever, and they made a real fuss of diamonds when diamonds are actually not really worth anything, are they? They can't contain. They can't. They can't contain information like a crystal can. A diamond will not behave like a crystal. So diamonds are worthless.
I'll show you guys something.
Another way of how they've
so far
flipped it.
to this day, I have not been able to, because if anybody remembers, my daughter was planning on relocating and she had boxed up all of her belongings and they're all in my husband's shed. The only thing I was able to get into was one of her bags, and it was because it was in the garage. And in the bag were these crystals. And the one that I pulled out, this is a pink quartz crystal. And I took it to ESETI when we met with the Unbiased on Defense group, and we broke this crystal. And everybody that came in the group, I think there ended up being like 60 or 70 people that showed up. It was amazing. Took a piece home, a good sized chunk of crystal. And this is the size. And it ended up being a 3-sided, not 4-sided, but 3-sided pyramid. And if you look, see, it's marble. It's just so beautiful. And she just picked these up by nature, just like would walk about and pick this up. So this is what would be called a pink or rose quartz crystal. And it is good for bringing in the energies of love, peace, keeps yourself in balance from getting too depressed or feeling bad. But the energy in this guy here is it's very powerful. I have not had to recharge this since I had my hands on it, but I think it's because of the love I keep infusing back into it.
Because certain crystals you have to be careful with, don't you? You have to cleanse them, recharge
black
them.
onyx, because of that will help you to transmute. You should cleanse those. Absolutely.
But quartz as well, you should, like, something about cleaning it in salt water.
Pink.
No, I don't know about pink quartz.
No, not pink quartz. It's a Hawaii. The salt is pink. I have it. It's
the salt that you clean it in. Yeah.
But you can, and we think that, so then for us it is. I can say I'm infusing this crystal now with the energy and the heartbeat of love. I'm infusing it with the energy of love. And I've just cleansed my crystal. Do you understand? If we think we need to perform a ritual, then perform the ritual. As a man thinks, so shall he be. Since we're talking about the Bible, we're talking about the the Lemurians, how they got here from that. They destroyed their own realm, which is that asteroid field. They asked the council, they inhabited here, they ascended to where they once were. A third of them broke away, formed Atlantis, wanted to oppress the already inhabitants that were lesser evolved, and wanted to usurp and control and manipulate what they were allowed to do. And they didn't even present it that way to the Lemurians on the continent of Lemuria. They were like, well, let us help assist them in their ascension. And the Lemurians could read their thoughts and their intentions. And they said, no, nobody assisted us. We were left alone. We evolved naturally. And that is how it is meant to be. They're to do it as they are able to understand it and evolve as nature has it go, as it moves along. In the meantime, they destroyed this place and actually set back the civilizations to famine and death and so many horrific things that it traumatized it traumatized those young civilizations. They thought the gods came here and destroyed the place because they did something wrong, because the ones that survived said so. So you got to understand how the power came into power. What did they use for their power? How did they get such obedience from people? And how are they using the same kind of methodology today? To understand that kind of logic, you almost have to understand, what did they use? Think as like a 5-year-old seeing something like this transpire that you've never seen before. And know thy enemy, so therefore you are able to stand in your power and not bend to the will and give over your sovereignty and your energy to create anything that is not from your own self. Because when we hand over our energy power, or we are subservient or believe that something bad will happen if we don't do X, Y, and Z, we're handing over and we are submitting over our sovereignty to something outside of ourselves. And I'm not talking, this is not, I'm not telling you to worship yourself. I'm telling you to take care of yourself. I'm telling you, you're responsible for one. And that's you. When you get the authority to rule, you get the authority to rule only over one, and that is you.
Yeah, and that goes right back to what I posted earlier about the Queen. No, about how royal families still exist on this pretense that they were given some God-given right to rule over the rest of us.
I'm reading Yolo's. Well, when they were having this atomic war, they disrupted, caused earthquakes. Earthquakes, the land was unstable, scorched the skies, nuclear winter, the continents, Atlantis fell in chunks. And I can only imagine that since Lemuria fell in a day, on what was exploded underneath that could cause, a volcanic scenario to cause a whole continent to sink in one day. So the weaponry that they had, created was horrible.
Yes. Oh, yes. Look, see, Yolo knows. That's what I said. The Maharata. Yeah, that one, the Indian one. That's what you were talking about. It's the same thing. They've talked about it in the Vedic texts. They talk all about it in the Vedic texts.
Well, I'm sure that it's written down in just about any place around in this realm of existence of any civilization who, was even in their earliest stages, wrote down what they saw. They wrote it the best they could to make some kind of record of what it was that they encountered and endured. Brahma. That sounds more familiar to me.
Right. So Brahma and see, because we talk about Shiva, but Shiva works hand in hand with Brahma and the other one. There's three.
Well, they say Shiva is she's a destroyer, but actually she's not. Only
No,
thing she destroys is the old, because the new is coming
to
in.
make way for the new.
Yes.
She just does it to make way for the new. She's not about just destroying. She's about destroying with the...
And it's destroying false constructs, not people.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. So, okay. So are we seeing how this lines up with what we read in Enoch? You know, the gods were at war, the angels, the war in the heavens, because if they're flying these crafts that, you know, with technology that is, you know, these people have never seen before, it would look like angels are flying. They're in these chariots. They're fire in the sky, godlike powers, and it would be horrifying, absolutely horrifying.
Well, it's funny because we you know, as kids, or certainly when I was younger, we talked about it, about, God, imagine if we could go back in time like 1,000 years, 2,000 years, if we went back 2,000 years, but with the technology that we've got now, everybody would think that we were gods. Huh. And we don't realize what we're saying when we say that. We don't even realize what we're saying when we say that, do we?
No, actually, because of if you think about the temple, they had some of the Egyptians come up and help build the temple that Solomon built, and it had a hydraulic system with secret chambers and doors that were on hydraulics back then. So the technology has been around for a very long time. It's just been hidden under a shroud of, there's a lot of secret technology that is still not out in the open yet.
Their technology that worked with, it was stones. We're all about metal now. We're all about you know, oh, it's not titanium or steel, it's not modern. And we think that if it's technological, it's going to be made of metal and plastic and stuff. But back then, they used stone. Or did they? Or was it turned to stone?
The hydraulic system itself was just like as a hydraulic system would work today. Now, yeah, the temple was built of stone. They were able to move these stones. They were able to build these megalithic structures with this technology that was shrouded in secrecy. And see, even in Solomon, there's a book of Solomon where he says that he commanded the demons, and you know, he was able to summons the demons to build the temple and do the labor. You know, it's supposed to be some kind of a spell book.
It's the power of his ring. God gives him a ring that gives him power over the demons, doesn't it? It's Solomon's ring.
Something a lot where he commands the demons and forces them to build God's temple. Well, yeah. Come on now, come on, you guys. I mean, it's technology. It's so now that, you know, and I'm not trying to usurp the Bible. I love my Bible.
That's the most difficult thing about having this discussion, having these discussions, isn't it? Because Christians and Catholics are so triggered by these conversations. They you know, we're all going to hell because we've been beguiled by the devil to believe this new age stuff, you know.
This is not new age stuff. This is old gnosis, and if we don't remember what happened, we're gonna repeat it. That's where remember I said that right before we came on. I was like, if we can't remember what happened in the past, we're doomed to repeat it.
That's why if it seems that for the last 300 years that just keeps happening. History keeps repeating itself, and that's because because they're not actually telling us the truth. They're telling us a bunch of lies, so we can't learn from our mistakes because we're getting fed a bunch of lies about what happened in the first place. And that's why it's so noticeable now that people are actually waking up, because with a lot of people, particularly now, they are just waking up. They're waking up, and one day suddenly something clicks. They have a little epiphany, or and it's like all of this information that they've been trying so hard to suppress and to keep from our attention is now, because it's been hidden for so long, it's
In plain
almost like
sight.
it's coming out now inside us. It can't be buried. That knowledge is passing through the ether now and being downloaded into each one of us.
Yep. Yep. And we will, and as each are ready, we'll perceive and see, and we'll know, and it will not. There won't be, there won't be any more tossing to and fro or seeking outside of, going anywhere to try to figure things out outside of yourself, because you will know that anything you're seeking for, you have access to it and always have. You just need to get that, I don't know, the antenna, just get the antenna back in line where your signal is coming in clear. And we all go through that. Everybody goes through that. But to think that we're not under what the plan was that they fought that battle for, and to think that all of these structures of control and fear narrative that are put in place to get people to submit to rule of law under the thumb, you're bad. That's why we have to have laws. You can't trust anybody. And, all of these things that are fed into us are to keep us separated. And the internet, one thing, I have to say a couple things about the internet here. Number one, it crosses realms. It crosses realms 3, 4, 5, 6. Several realms can observe what's going on in what it is that we are talking about. Okay. Not only that, we also cross boundaries of countries. So you can tell me that this is going on in a country and it's barbaric and this, and then they turn their camera on and it's a beautiful paradise and it's peaceful. We can see with our own eyes from people that we are now becoming acquainted with, thanks to the internet. It has connected us in a way that will change the landscape of mankind forever.
I'm connected to 2 guys who live in Israel, both Israeli, both Jewish, not practicing Jewish, but they're both Jewish. And getting to know them over the last sort of 18 months has given me a completely different perspective, a completely different perception of Israel, Israeli people, Jewish people, the Jewish faith, all of it. I've got a completely new perspective now because I know I'm friends with 2 Israelis. Up until I met those guys, I'd only ever met maybe 2 Israelis before that. One was some ditzy girl at university that was drunk and just basically, she was going out with this really ugly lad, but he was absolutely loaded. And the other was in a hostel when I was on the street in Malaga. I met somebody. I got a night in a hostel. I was sharing a room with this couple from Israel, and when speaking to them, it didn't give me an accurate view of what Israel was like or what Israeli people are like. They were like the American version. They were like they were basically Americans that were living in Israel. But Nia and John have shown me that Israel's nothing like we've been made to believe. It's nothing like that at all. They're not the people that we think they are, or that we're made to believe that they are. They're no different.
It does. It only takes a few rotten apples to ruin the whole lot.
Oh God, yeah.
And that's what, that's why we have to look at things on an individual basis, not lump into groups and categories.
And
now, even though these fractions broke apart, they did follow the one, and they did believe in what, because they understood what they were able to do. But that doesn't mean that everyone that was born after, or that came into that or onto that continent, followed along with the same ideology.
No, because that's like thinking that everybody now is going along and thinking along with the same things and going along with the ideology,
and you can see
it's not.
that in Egypt, because they had the one who was, very gentle, very kind, and then his own brother came in and killed him, and then took over, and then he was a heavy-fisted, cruel leader over Egypt from mythology. I want to talk about Seth. When Seth killed his brother and took out Horus, because Horus was being throned, he took Horus's eye and he killed his brother and he took the throne. So you got the gentle ones, just like each person is unique. We all make our own choices. But with anything that we read, anything that we look at, use discernment, the parallels of what happened with that situation and what, has been found, the artifacts that have been discovered that parallel to ancient writings that have made it and been canonized as from God. So it just makes you wonder, is the truth in plain sight, or are they still wanting to be worshipped as gods, or are they pretending to be gods, or did the people really think they were gods when they wrote those? So it was just lack of understanding because they were not as evolved as those other beings. It wasn't like maybe they wrote that stuff not trying to deceive future generations. Maybe they wrote it because they really thought they were freaking gods because of what they were doing.
Do you know?
Who knows?
Oh God, what was it that I watched recently? I can't remember what it was, but I watched something recently where the guy's given the choice. Or maybe it was Assassin's Creed, where he's given the choice
again
to do something or not do something, and he chooses. And it's Assassin's Creed 2, and she says, "You've got to do this," and then Minerva is Juno and Minerva, and Minerva says, "Don't do what she's telling you to do, because if you do that, you just don't do it." And Juno says, "Well, but tell him why. Tell him why. Don't just say that. Tell him why." And so she says why, and the reason why is because if he goes along with what Minerva says, then he will be, the history books will hail him as a hero. He'll be absolutely, he'll be worshipped by everybody. They'll think he's fantastic. Things will be written about him. And then as the years pass by and he dies and hundreds of years go by, and the information gets twisted.
Mm-hmm.
And people get the wrong idea from the information. They mistranslate it, and they present it in different ways, and it ends up just going back. Exactly the same thing happens all over again. So he does a great thing, but all it does is just It resets things for a bit, but then it all goes back into the same cycle again. Whereas if he does what Juno wants, that's breaking away from that old cycle.
Yep. And that is what we are going through right now, is we're breaking away from an old cycle, an old paradigm, and coming into a new. Hey, I got something, since we're, on biblical and things like that. Mary, the Virgin Mary, right?
Yeah,
And
not Mary Magdalene.
no, the Virgin Mary that gave birth to Jesus. Okay, remember that a being came and spoke with her. And then she was overshadowed. What is overshadowed? Overshadowed. Okay. And then she conceived Jesus. So was it a Lemurian? Was it a Lemurian that was pure? And that's why his blood is odd, because he was half Lemurian, half man, and therefore he was able to reach nirvana and enlightenment with the enhanced I don't know, I wouldn't call it DNA. I would call it enhanced. Well, because our DNA holds knowledge also. Our cells have memory.
Well, there's the DNA and there's genetics, isn't there? They're two different things, aren't they?
It does hold your history. It holds karma. It holds. There's information even within our own structure, our own body, and it's up to us to change the information, transmute, and remove. We can clear it, or we can fester. Just like disease. So was Mary? Does it really? It does say in the Bible, but maybe it doesn't anymore. I don't know. Was she overshadowed by what was called the Holy Spirit? Inner knowing probably knows if she's still bopping around. But if I remember my scripture right, it says that she was visited, and that said that she was picked amongst the women, and that she would be visited and overshadowed by the Holy Spirit, and that she would bear a son, and his name would be Emmanuel, and that would be and he would be the one to restore peace. He wasn't here to bring war. He was here to bring peace, and he was a very peaceful, and the love radiated out and expanded. Remember, we were talking about energy, and how if you have energy build up and no place to release it, that you can actually absorb it within yourself and expand your vortex. And what happens, it's not a selfish thing. Other people walk through your field and feel that energy, and it can trigger something within them without you even saying a hello. It's just from them walking in your field. So
that was something that Dolores Cannon spoke about. She was talking about some of the souls that have come to Earth to be part of this. She had so many people asking her, what am I meant to do? Why am I here? Why did I come here? What am I meant to do? And there's a lot of us that aren't even meant to do anything. We're just meant to be. Because we're a conduit.
You have one thing. You have one job. One single solitary job. Get to know yourself.
Be you.
Be an
authentic you. Yeah. So you can be an authentic version of yourself.
Stop looking outside of yourself to try to figure out who you are, because who you are is in you, not outside of you. And when you wake up to yourself, all kinds of doors open. All kinds of things come into your awareness. Many people will think you're stark raving mad, but really you're not. You're walking in a paradigm and seeing things that many people, thousands of years ago could only dream about. We're at a time right now that many, many longed to see. And here we are in this now moment.
Oh, I long to see this. Like, I don't know. I always kind of knew. When I was a kid, I always knew
Well, the 3 waves of volunteers are idiots. No, I'm just kidding.
Definitely knew that. When I was a kid, I definitely knew.
You don't have
Absolutely,
to make
definitely,
jokes.
because when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the apocalypse. Absolutely obsessed with it. Draw it in every single drawing I did for art, and not for graphic design, but for art. All my drawings were about the apocalypse and about. I mean, I was thinking about the end of the world and Armageddon and everything, but it was talking about the end of, basically it's the end of the world as we know it. I always knew I was going to see the end of the world as we know it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it's happened already.
And,
The world that we knew has ended.
well, the Lemurians from Lemuria, the Mayan long count calendar that ended on 12/21/2012, it was the dawning of a new. People at that time started to go into high gear TikTok time of going through the motions of waking up.
Well, I woke up in 2013, so
Interesting. See?
it was after 2012 happened. The 21st of December came, and I was disappointed, man, because I was like, oh, no volcanoes going off, no asteroids, no end of the world. So
What?
right,
Really?
right,
That's what
okay.
you thought?
Yeah, I know. I because I wanted something really big to happen, because I thought, it's the end of the Mayan calendar, but then didn't even realize that 8 months later
Bam.
I quit drinking and woke up, like all in the same month. I quit. I decided to stop drinking, and in the same month I started investigating Buddhism, and then dive into the rabbit hole, and that's when I woke up. It was like 8 months after the 21st of December 2012.
You probably got triggered on that date. And I don't know if it has something to do with telos and that very gnosis and a release of a certain type of a frequency energy that came out upon all mankind. We're in this together. It's not like one is better than another or anything. We are in this, all of us together. It's where one goes, all go. We're all going through this together.
When I was doing the Really Woke show with Roxanne, that's one of the things that was said was, we are doing this together, and we're meant to be united. So if we see another person stumble or fall because of outside influences, or because of their own mistakes or mishaps, or their ego or whatever, never leave a fallen. You should never leave somebody. If somebody falls,
is it your job to, if they're not reaching their hand up to be helped up, is it your job to force them up?
Yeah, no. But you should never, cut people off and cast them out for making mistakes and stuff, because we're all in this together. This is a learning curve, and if people are able to find the humility to admit their mistakes, or to admit that obviously they did something wrong because it didn't happen the way it was supposed to, or whatever, then this is a learning curve for all of us.
But if somebody, excuse me, if somebody is just, if they're non-apologetic and they're bullying you and they're not treating you right and they're not respecting
you just leave
you,
them alone.
then you walk away.
Walk away. You
unconditionally love them because you still know who they are, but you walk away because you have the right as a sovereign unique. You see, that's what it is. It's unity, but unity in diversity. It's allowing each other to be who we're all meant to be as a unique, but be united in respecting and not troddening down on each other's rights to be.
And people don't people they don't understand really what loving somebody is, and so allowing somebody to be and walking away and not engaging with them, it doesn't mean that you yourself do not have, that you're not going to have urges or like reflex reactions or whatever. So somebody doesn't respond in a favorable way to you, they're unapologetic, they're complete idiots, assholes, and in the moment what you want to do is bite, shout, have a go, say, what are you doing? But you can transmute that energy that you want to expel, rather than expelling it.
You gotta let steam out of the pot when you need it. You don't go to bed mad. Let the steam out of the pot, but don't hurt anybody.
It's being able to keep that energy to yourself, rather than giving that negative energy back to the person. Being able to keep that energy for yourself.
But what happens when you do that? We talked about that earlier.
No, transmute it.
If you know how. If not, you need to let the steam out of the pot and let it go.
Michelle, that's what I'm saying. People don't know how. That's the whole point. People don't know how. People don't understand what, how can you just, if somebody comes back at you, you've been not benevolent and compassionate, whatever, to somebody, and they just come back at you with hate and they're unapologetic and whatever, how can you just smile and walk away?
Because you know who they are. You love them. They're your brother or sister.
Understanding how to transmute that energy that they've given you. So it's human to react. It is a human thing to react in the moment to things. Not like the most serene person, the most serene, centered person is still going to have flashes of anger.
Oh, yeah.
It's still going to have
flash. Don't hold it.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to have flashes of anger. You can't eradicate emotion. You can't get rid of your emotion.
Such a process right now. It's such a transition. It's flipping people's worlds upside down. It's upheaving and bringing in something completely different than what many people are accustomed to. So therefore, there's going to be a little rocking of the boat, so to speak.
At the moment, it's all misplaced anger. Everybody's chucking around this misplaced anger.
The calm in the storm. You need to be the steady Eddie there. You need to be the one that's holding your peace, no matter what's going on around you. You like water. Or like a duck, water roll off your back. You just. And it doesn't matter if they throw things, they can throw whatever. I don't have to pick that energy up. I'm not going to pick up energy that if I'm showing you nothing but respect, love, and kindness, and you're throwing something or mud or whatever at me, I'm not going to pick that up. I don't need to pick that up. I'm just going to say, you know what? I love you, but I deserve to be treated the way I'm treating you, which is with respect. I love you, but this is where we part ways. And you harmoniously move away from situations that cause discord.
The worst thing is when you try to do that.
Come back together.
The worst thing, the hardest thing, because I've had that, I've experienced that myself with more than one person, and the worst thing is when you want to do that and you try to do that, but the person that you're dealing with doesn't, and that they just keep on and on and on, and they chase you down the road, and they just keep going on and on and on at you, and they will not shut up. That's the hardest time, when you want to let something go. You want to say, look, I love you. I don't want to argue this. This is, you're entitled to that.
Are you talking about
opinion
a
and that
spouse?
feeling and whatever, that's your
Something you can't escape
this is
from?
your experience. I don't agree with it, and I'm just let's not talk about this anymore. That person is just like, no, I want to talk about it. No, we're going to sort this out.
Okay, so
God, how many
we're
people
talking about a family dynamic. I'm talking about,
I'm talking
you
about
know,
ex-girlfriends actually, but
yeah, that's same thing, relationships of that nature. I'm talking about you have a friend, you've been nothing but kind to him, and then they turn around and bite you. And then not only bite you, then they maliciously go around and just do all kinds of things behind your back. Are you going to pick that up and take it onto yourself and let it fester? Or are you just going to set that stuff down and walk away?
I mean that's something that YouTube creators have to deal with on a regular basis
Sure.
as YouTube creators, particularly those of us that are trying to share
This type of
we
stuff.
consider to be truths or an alternative narrative, whatever.
A stretching of the consciousness, expansion, anything of that nature is considered taboo.
Yeah, so we've got trolls that come in and they'll work hard and they'll do a good job of actually coming in as friends, and they'll befriend you, and they'll they'll be all yeah, you're great, everything you say is wonderful, and then the second you say something that they don't like, they'll turn, and then they'll start saying nasty things, and they'll they'll get up their troll armies and whatever.
Well, then that's their authentic self.
How you respond to that, it's all in how you respond to that. That's why I think trolls are deliberately put there to help train us. They're not there for malevolent reason. I think they're there for actually to aid us, to help us to gain control of our own triggers, to understand what our own triggers are, why we're getting triggered by these things that are being said, and to be able to file those triggers down and not get triggered. I think that was the whole point. That's why trolls exist, even though they don't know that's why they exist. That's why they exist. It's to help us, not to hinder us. But the idea is that you're meant to know when to let go of things.
I guess I dealt with some in the beginning. I just, we've got a pretty good group. It's a small group. We don't seem to be growing. We seem to be losing. I don't know, I get people talk about shadow banning and whatever. I really, it's like this, if the StreamYard gets shut off in June, okay, fine. I mean, it is what it is. I'll do the best that I can with what I have and chug along as long as I can, because
the StreamYard's not going to get shut off. It just means that you're not going to have all the options. You'll still be able to use StreamYard.
Very limited usage, and they put all kinds of different rules and regulations, and everything's in flux. Even OBS doesn't work as well as what it used to. I mean, there's just like when you were reading, when I made that video to submit to that group thing, that it couldn't be from Zoom because the quality that Zoom puts out is so poor, so grainy, and so awful that it would be chucked and wouldn't even qualify. That if you submitted a video that you made on Zoom, it didn't even make it in to be observed as a contender. Because that's it's like Zoom used to be a really good platform, very clear, nice imaging, group chats were on there, everybody looked great.
Zoom used to be better than Skype.
Yeah, and the quality is it's not even acceptable anymore, for any type of a serious software to use for a submission, at least into that one that I showed you earlier. Zoom was excluded. Are you going to be able to talk to them for a minute while I go use the girls' room? Can you hold the conversation? Inner Knowing's been asking you a lot of questions. Michael Fontaine, you could read some of the comments if you want to, and chit chat like you do on your with the people in the stream, and I'll be as fast as I can. that cool?
Always.
Or you want to end it? It's up to you.
No, yeah, no, that's cool. I'm just going to say, Michael, that I've had that before. It's due to wanting to be happy. Everyone seems to want to take away people's happiness. It's nerve-wracking. It's the thing is, I think that the only people that want to take away other people's happiness is unhappy people. It's jealousy, isn't it? They see other people that are happy, and they hate it because they're not happy. They can't find their own happiness. They can't find their own peace. And so when they see other people happy, they resent it and they want to take it. They want to steal it. I think that's the case with all the these elites that have got these vast quantities of money and so much power and control. They're not free. They're not free men. They're tied to their businesses. They're tied to their investments. They're tied to their partners. They're very restricted as to what they can do, and they've not got any. They're not happy. They're not happy. Every single one of them thinks that any second now somebody's going to kill them and take all their money because they're jealous. Because they project themselves out onto everybody else. They think that everybody else is just like they are. So they find it impossible to find happiness and can't stand it when they look out and they see us living in poverty and squalor. And we do. We can find moments of bliss and happiness and ecstasy and contentment, even with nothing, living with nothing, having no money, not eating properly, having, we haven't, me, I don't have, I've got a TV and a laptop and a phone, and that's it, man, and my guitar. But I can still find moments where I'll be infinitely happier than the richest man on earth. And he won't be able to understand that.
Yeah, things don't make us happy. It's not things. It's not love. Love is what we crave. As that's because at our core, that's what we are, is pure love. Love is what we crave. Love is what
that's the thing. That's it, isn't it? It's because what we find, where you find real happiness is with it's an inner thing. It's not something it's not something external, and it's not something material. It's
love.
You can't.
There's nothing more fulfilling than getting a love embrace from that being. And I wanted to say, remember when I was thinking about this when I was washing my hands. Remember when I got a hold of you on What's Up, and I was freaking out. Richie, because just like you watching my thing, just when I think I've got mastery on something like dreams and visions, and that I can interpret and see where, different realms where I'm at, with the astral and all that stuff. Wham! I get hit with some new mystery, with new revelations, letting me know I don't know squat. Okay. Now, with the topic we're talking about, I was picked up, and apparently you've been privy to, whatever. Okay, anyways, what is the possibility and probability of that these kind of crafts that existed and are actually when you look at some hieroglyphs and some of the things that earlier civilizations drew into their walls, they're on there. They drew them. Okay. They were there. So is it that far-fetched to think that there are such things in this realm here that could pick us up and put us on a healing bed, so to speak, that works on an energetic level of restoring and healing broken bones or mending cell damage, or maybe you cut yourself really bad or whatever the case may be, and drop you back off at home.
I don't know, but you know that's straight out of V, don't you?
V.
You know that in V, they have exactly that, healing beds, where you lay
They
on the
give
bed,
away
it
everything in movies.
diagnoses your problem and then fixes it.
Really?
Have you seen that? Have you seen V?
No. You know, okay, when I okay, when okay, a couple decades ago, you guys know, started having these OBE, and it was dark, and I thought these shadow creatures were, and scared the bejeebers out of me. And at the same time, I was having lucid dreams, seeing things that were going to happen, or I was either an observer watching and then I would tell them to people just close, just like a handful of people. I didn't tell hardly anybody, because it was so taboo back then. And then, but then they would witness it and walk through them either with me or my husband, because he would know about them. And then finally I went to the doctor. He's like, "Oh, you're having night terrors." Gave me a pill. Okay, so all this stuff that has been going on, for a long time. I don't remember. Oh, back in, oh God, when was it? Oh, I haven't told anybody about that. I might have told you, though, about a dream that I had a couple of times that I did not want to come to pass because I wanted to be wrong. I just wanted to be proven wrong, because one of my problems is when I go into some of these states of awareness, I can't discern, because the clothing type hasn't changed that much, or what. If I'm looking at tomorrow, am I looking at 3 years? Am I looking at 10 years? I can't discern when I'm perceiving the situation. Anyways, long story short, I stopped feeding myself from the boob tube. I got away from the television, the internet. I spent my time swimming. I spent my time introspecting. I spent my time learning to clear my mind and getting to know self. And I had the best, cleanest breakthroughs that I ever had when I unplugged. Now, I don't take any technology with me in where I sleep. None. And I have some organite crystals that, like, they're right next to where my head rests on my bed, which would veer away any kind of a Wi-Fi signal or anything that could come through the walls, because we know that stuff's going through the air waves. So you place them strategically. So
what did you say it was? Did you say it was organite?
Yes, organite.
That's what Cam uses, and he said that he suggested that I get hold of some organite for migraines, to help my migraines.
And magnets. I have a magnetic necklace that I wear. Well, I've had it for a very long time. When I would have my migraines, the magnetics, there's just something about, there's just certain minerals and magnetics and just certain things that are of this earth that we can utilize without using pharmaceuticals and that are natural remedies.
Pharmaceuticals shouldn't even exist. There is no reason for any pharmaceutical to exist on this earth.
So anyway, so I unplugged from all of that. So then, now and again, I will watch a movie every now and, not very often. I normally watch like the same movies, and because they're good, clean fun. I know it's entertainment. I get a good chuckle out of them, and I just go on my merry way. But I don't turn like the TV on. I don't watch the news or any of that kind of propaganda stuff. I just kind of stay away from all of that.
What film is it? Like Herbie Goes Bananas and stuff?
like the Furry Revenge, where all of the animals are trying to get rid of him because he's trying to build all those houses, and the like Humor This is a pretty funny one. Just real that are like 80s type movies kind of, but I don't watch much television. I'm not up to date on, the current soap operas. I'm not up to date on the current fad. There was a program, I guess, that came out. It was called Lucifer. I never even saw one episode of it.
Oh, I did. Do you know what? That was a funny one. That um, I don't know if I told you about this. So for a long time, I've been saying, "Who am I? You know what's the whose soul is inside me, or what? You know, who am I? If my soul was eternal, if I lived previous lives and whatever, who am I?" And my ex-girlfriend and the one before as well, my ex-girlfriend, they both said this. They told me during arguments, massive arguments that we'd have, they told me that I was Lucifer. They just looked me square in the eye.
You're the good guy. You're
They
Lemurian.
say, "You are Lucifer," right? And then in 2019, I put a question out. I meditated and I put a question out to the universe, and then 2 weeks later, I met someone, and when she went back to England, I was chatting to her every day on the phone, and I put on this voice when I was talking to her because she liked it. It made her giggle and stuff. And the voice had a name, and he was called James. And this was James. He was extremely well spoken, very well spoken chap. Spoke the Queen's English almost perfectly. And this is how James. So I'd call her up and say, "Hello, darling. How are you doing? It's James here." And actually, she called him. No, I called him James. But anyway, she went back to England, and I spoke to her. She said, "Oh my God, have you seen Lucifer? Have you watched that program Lucifer yet?" And I was like, "No." "Oh, I've seen it advertised." What is it? She said, "You are Lucifer." I went, "Wait, what are you talking?" She went, "Well, James is Lucifer." And so I watched it. And the thing is, I identified with the character Lucifer in that series. Lucifer is doing a job. He's not evil. He's doing the job that God gave him. God said he's the king of hell, and that was his job. So he didn't punish good people. He didn't punish decent people. He punished sinners. He only punished people that deserved to be punished. And he was angry with humans for worshipping him.
Mm-hmm.
Because it gave people a sympathetic eye towards Lucifer, and that obviously terrifies Christians and Catholics. But the way they portray the character was actually a nice person. Lucifer is a nice guy in the series. Yeah, he has his moments where he shows his real face and he turned big and scary. But that's only when he's responding to certain things. The rest of the time, he's actually just a nice guy.
Well, okay, have you seen people when they're pissed off? Have you seen when their nostrils are flaring, their faces are red, their eyes are bugging out?
The whole reason that my ex-girlfriends called me Lucifer was because we get into arguments, and when a girl is stood there screaming like a banshee at me and being completely unreasonable, slapping me around the face, kicking me in the leg, going nuts, I will never, ever, ever raise my hand to a woman. But that doesn't mean I won't shout. That doesn't mean I won't scream and shout. And so I'd get really angry, screaming and shouting back. And they'd be like, "Oh my God, you're Lucifer." And the thing is, when I get angry, when I get really angry, I look like a bloody demon. I look like
Yeah,
I'm going to
but
rip
we
your
just
heart out.
discussed earlier that Lumerians, the illuminated ones, the ones that fell from heaven or whatever, and then the Atlanteans, which was an offshoot of the Lumerians, they got a bad rap, but they're actually, are the ones that were helping. The Lemurians on the continent of Lemuria had no intentions of interfering or usurping or wanting control or oppressing any other civilization evolving in this realm. Did you see the comment? Because we did talk about that. And that is exactly what I said about the garden. Garden is a fenced place. A garden is an enclosure you cannot get out. That's not paradise.
Hmm.
That's called a cage.
Paradise has to be the freedom to be.
And it's unity in diversity. We will unite and we will accept and love each other for what we have to offer one another. Who wants to be around a bunch of people who think alike, talk alike, cut their hair alike, and dress alike?
God, can you imagine that? I mean, it is actually out there in the world right now. You've got
It's
a
pretty
whole
close to
bunch of
that.
people walking
Because
around dressed the same.
we talk our conversation we're having right now, but we're going to be chastened for it because we're not into that cutting our hair a certain way. We're not talking because they do it with words and energy and exerting it in ways of that nature. Because we're not conforming to the way of their idealism, we're shunned. See what I'm saying? It's a different way of
we're not materialistic, and we see no true value in things and possessions. We see the value and the wealth in relationships and family and love and those things. So we're just completely alien to them.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that they love things. It's the ideals that there is a God that is over evil. There's a God that's over good. There is not two gods. There's only one.
That's duality.
One, right.
That's just a representation of duality.
Yes,
which
sir.
is within all of us, isn't it? It's not a.
Well, that's the inner battle. To discover yourself, you got to peel back that onion. You got to go layer by layer.
But they've done exactly what this is their modus operandi. They tell you that everything that you're looking for is out there.
We're in opposite land.
And it's not. It's in here.
In the meantime, while you're searching out there, they're harvesting your power, and they are having you create a paradigm that puts them in the cushy seats and puts you at the bottom.
Yeah. And so I scream at people, for God's sake, they've only got this power because you think they've got this power. It's like with it's all
you take it, so you've given it.
It's all forms of authority over us. They're only doing this because we're letting them. We're giving them the power to do it.
I love water, by the way. And yes, we talked about that a little earlier. When you flow like water and you go with the current, you'll move along into this transition very easily. But if you're going to paddle upstream, it's going to be a rough current. It's going to be a rough ride. It's much easier to go with the flow, not with the flow of the herd. I'm talking about the flow of the interchanges that are going on instead of battling it out inside and going through inner turmoil and being tossed to and fro. Go with the flow and let it naturally evolve from within. I like this Jonas Victor Bromad. Was it Thomason?
Johannes.
Johannes, I'm sorry.
Victor Bromand.
I'm on the
Thomason. Yeah.
I'm on the stream.
Is that Danish? Are you Danish, Johannes?
I don't know, but he's thrown down some nice wisdom, and I always appreciate wisdom. I glean from wisdom. I glean from knowledge. I glean from everybody. We all have something to offer. We're so unique. We have something to offer, and but then we're all connected. We're all of one, and at the same time, simultaneously, there's only one of you. Danish.
That was right.
Nice.
I was right. I reckon, yeah, Johannes or Johan. It's a Danish name, isn't it?
Now you're going to have to, because I can't breathe because his head got so big. Johannes. Tell him you're from Sweden or something. I'm kidding, Richie. I'm kidding. You know I love you. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the comparison between Lemuria, Atlantis, and what was written down in ancient texts from possibly what they observed and what they seen they wrote? And what would it look like? Exactly what they wrote. But in the meantime, it's been handed down to us as the Word of God. And therefore, many believe that it is the Word of God, but it's all in perception and observation. We are looking at a book that was written under somebody else's observation and how they perceived what they were observing.
And so that means that their perception has been influenced by their own experience and therefore their own ego. Not necessarily
ego. It would be like a 5-year-old seeing somebody with godlike powers. What would you write down? You wouldn't know any different. You'd write down what you
write down according to your own experience and according to your own knowledge, wouldn't you?
So you're being honest and you're being authentic. You're not trying to be deceptive. You're writing down what you're experiencing from your observation through your perception. Yes. In the meantime, instead of looking at it as a history book and understanding what we need to learn from it so we don't repeat the same thing, so we're able to free ourselves from a cycle, come out of the 8 of infinity and into the 9, we have to understand what went wrong in order to not allow such things to happen again. Are there those among us that are springing up through this conscious evolution that would want to oppress or have a heart to want to usurp another divine sovereign's ability and freedom and rights to be?
We all know the answer to that question.
Well, if there is, they won't evolve. See, that's what will be. They'll be their own stumbling block, and they'll continue to have that inner battle and swim up that stream until they start to go with the flow. They will not be able to conquer that, you can call it a demon within or whatever, until it is gone. They will not be able to have the access.
That demon within, all that demon within is the dark side of themselves. That's all that is. It's just the negative. We're all, because we're all a polarity, aren't we? We've all got positive and negative inside us. So
really,
we've all got positive and negative inside us.
You mean like electrical charges, or are you saying like impulses?
No, not necessarily impulses, but sensations, emotions. It's duality. This entire earth is not.
Well, what if you're just mixing up duality with dual nature, meaning that you're supposed to toggle from spirit to physical? It's a dual nature, so you're a dual being, and we turned it into a yin yang, good bad thing, where it's not. It's that when you are with the dark side, with the white light, you're in your physical vessel. And when you're in your white side with the dark, you are astral traveling into other realms and exploring this infinite infinite areas of existence. It's all in perception.
So we all have a dark element to our. We all have the potential to be dark, choose to or not.
That's choice, though.
Whether you choose to be dark or not is a different thing. But we've all got the capacity to do it.
But that's
We've all
choice.
got the capacity to be good or bad.
My gosh, we've all got 2 legs. We've all got 2 arms. We've all got 2 eyes. 2 ears. Yeah. Okay.
But we've only got one mouth.
But you're taking choice out of it. You're saying you're lumping everybody into one category, and that was what we were just talking about with Atlantis and Lemuria. Even with the Atlantis being and having the ideology float around of what they were planning and plotting, not everybody that was on that continent had that same idealism. We can never ever judge an entire populace by the way we feel, because my ideals and the way that I feel are not going to be the same as what you feel. We are unique in that respect because we have choice.
What we feel and what we have the capacity to feel are 2 different things. Because what you're saying is that there are people that don't even have the capacity to be able to be evil or bad or
Now,
but
as
they
a
do.
choice.
But they do. They have the capacity to do it. It has to be a choice to do it, but they still have the capacity. You still have the capacity to be spiteful or malicious or anything. You still have the capacity to do it. You wouldn't choose to. You wouldn't ever choose to do it, but you still have the capacity to do it.
Just because, understanding who you are. I don't have the capacity. I can't do that to you because I know who you are. I can't hurt another divine sovereign, brother and sister of mine. Not for spite, greed, malicious.
Right. Okay. So all right. So perhaps it would be more accurate to say that unaware people who are unaware and unable to appreciate or perceive certain higher what would the word be? So like you say you can see me, you can see more than I can see. So maybe you don't have the capacity, but I do, because I'm not seeing everything that you're seeing.
I'm not saying it doesn't break my heart when my brothers and sisters hurt me. It breaks my heart, but I will choose to walk away in unconditional love because I have the right to be treated with respect that I show you. And at the same time, the others don't have the right to trodden or abuse another. Why would I stay in a situation where I'm not being treated as a sovereign equal? Why would I stay in a situation, abusive situations, where I'm constantly being trodden? We walk away, but it doesn't change who that person is because they don't know who they are. That's not that's for them to dig. And you look within. It's everything we need is within us. Every answer we seek outside of we get affirmations of the Yazula outside. But all of it comes from within first. Then we get the affirmations. At least that's how I do it. Like something will happen and then affirmations will come later. And they zing me every time. It's like, wee, oh my God. Ah. Seek ye the kingdom of heaven. For it is within you. The kingdom of heaven is now. The day of the kingdom of heaven is today. It's always a now moment. There's never, I went back biblical on you. I'm sorry. It's just because there's truth in there. When I look at the things that Christ said and the parables that he used and the things that he told people, when he would talk to people, the things that he said, that's meat. If we could understand what he's saying. When he says, when they say Christ is here, don't go there. If they say, oh, Christ is over there, don't go there either. Because where you are is where you need to be. Look inward. And any battles that we have to fight with anything that may stir us to do something hostile towards another is an inner battle. It's not a battle with that person we want to be hostile with. It's an inner battle. Why are we staying in a situation we're not treated right is beyond me. We have the right to walk away and unconditionally love them. We don't want to carry that within us and cause dis-ease within our own body by having hostility and anger staying within us. We can throw those energy darts, but do you think those energy darts are going to do even a 100th of the damage that is going to do to us for being bitter and angry with that person? It's so much better to forgive. You'll live longer, you'll look younger, you'll feel better. Even when I was walking through hell, and I still am to a certain degree from losing my child, I have not felt or had the desire to lash out against any of my brothers and sisters, even when some really, really bad stuff happened. I mean, it was like, wow, I my heart was broken, several times over again because the shock of some of the things that transpired, kind of like, oh, look, kick you when you're down kind of a thing. But I chose just to walk away in peace and just loving that person.
The thing is, with you, Michelle, I think it would be hard to imagine a time when, for me, it would be hard to imagine a time when you would ever have been like that. I think you've probably always been very forgiving, understanding, patient, and compassionate. So it's not so much as of a big thing for you because you've always had that element to your personality anyway, to your being.
Well, I don't know. I was a heavy meddler, and I got into a few fist fights in high school. I mean, I was a wild child.
But being a heavy metaler and getting into heavy fist fights doesn't mean that you are an angry person that carries grudges.
No.
Doesn't make you an angry person that carries grudges. That makes you a person that likes heavy metal music and maybe lashed out in the moment.
Well, just don't go out with my husband, and I won't touch you.
But you were lashed out in the moment.
We were separated. I was out on it.
It wasn't something that you carried with you. It was something in the moment and that passed. That's something for me is I've never been able to carry a grudge or carry an energy into the following day. I could go to bed absolutely hating somebody and really just done with them, just really done with them. And then the next morning, or it could be a couple of hours later, it might even be 10 minutes later, that energy's completely gone. I cannot feel that energy at all. I'm not connected to it at all anymore. That's why it used to be the worst thing when I used to get into arguments with my ex-girlfriends. I'd get into arguments and it would get to the point where I'd say, right, we have to just stop now.
He sits on the throne of your heart. You're right. And that is exactly right. Your soul and Jesus is on the throne of your heart, which connects to your mind, gives you the new heart and the renewing of your mind. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to say something to our Danish friend. He's doling out wisdom again. Sorry.
Okay, you just done my train of thought.
You said you can't when you go to bed. You could be mad as heck, but when you wake up, it's
Yeah,
gone.
and so like I get into arguments with my ex-girlfriend Bayer. We get into arguments, and I mean, it's every girlfriend and every argument I've had with it, and like with my fucking mother, and with people. It will get to a point where I say, okay, that's it. Pause. We need to stop now. You need to shut up. Let's not say anymore. Let's just leave it. And I have to be able to walk away, because if I walk away within moments, within minutes, sometimes maybe within hours, but never more than hours, that I don't even have to think about it. That energy just goes. So it doesn't matter how angry I got. It doesn't matter how bloody spitting angry I got. It was completely gone an hour later. So I never held on to it, But there's other people that can't.
Are you
They
a
can't
volunteer?
seem to let go. They can't seem to let go of things, and trying to get somebody. I don't know how to get somebody like that to understand
Is that your
how to let go.
responsibility?
No, obviously it's not my responsibility. I mean, I'm not saying that I would like to. Well, I would like to, but I'm not saying that that would be an intention of mine to go out and try and fix people like that. But it would be nice to be able to, if I was having a conversation with somebody that said to me, yeah, but I don't know how, I can't stop it. I don't know how to let go of it. I don't know how to effectively tell somebody, I don't know how to describe to somebody how you let go of something, because for me, it's as soon as my attention's gone from that thing, I let go of it, and it's gone. It's not, because it's always an uncomfortable feeling anyway to get to that level of anger or whatever. It's not a nice feeling. It might be for a moment in the time, when you shout back, and it might feel good in that second, but like immediately afterwards, I always feel bad. I always feel bad that I've allowed my anger to get up to that level, and then I can letting go of it. It's so easy. It's so
When
easy.
people lose it like that, I mean, they could almost seem out of control and can frighten other people, and that's would be my concern. How did the anger affect another being? I mean, did you scare them? Because that, especially when men get
Oh,
angry with
Christ,
women,
Michelle, when I get angry like that, it's intended to bloody scare somebody. When I get that angry, it's because somebody has pissed me off that much, and in that moment, I want them to be terrified. I don't, because they need to shut up. That's where it is. That's where I am in those. It hasn't happened for such a long time, man, because I haven't been in a relationship I've been single for a couple of years now, so it hasn't happened since Bayer.
oh my gosh, you mean women? I mean, like you want to yell and scream and scare women?
When you've got a woman that's drunk and she's being an absolute arse, screaming and shouting, making ridiculous accusations, telling you that you've slept with so and so and you're going to go and do this and you've done this, telling you how you feel, telling you what you're thinking, telling you all these things, and they're screaming, and it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and they're hitting the wall and throwing things and then screaming at the top of their lungs, stop hitting me, stop hitting me. And I'm nowhere freaking near them.
Take a walk. I'd leave.
Then, yeah, well, I mean, I I've tried to leave. It's the whole point. I tried to leave, and they come chasing down the street after, and just getting forced into situations where the anger takes over. Never takes over fully, because if it did, I'd be in prison because I would have killed somebody by now. I have self-control. Just because if you get angry and scream and shout at somebody, it doesn't mean to say that you're going to punch them in the face. It doesn't mean to say that you're going to get violent. It just means that you're expelling the energy that's built up inside you because you're feeling
that's letting steam out of the pot. But if it's
if you would have been stood on the sidelines watching the argument, if you come in halfway through the argument and hadn't seen why the argument had started, what caused it, the things that had happened the 5 days previously, and all of that.
If I witnessed this, let me give you my opinion.
You didn't know what was going on.
Hang on.
You would think that I was some sort of devil that was about to kill his girlfriend.
If I walked in and I seen you yelling and I seen her drunk being a fool, the first thing I would do is I would walk up to you and I would slap you and tell you to sit your ass down. And then I would turn around to her and I'd whoop her ass. And then I'd go home. Because a man should not be putting fear into a woman because you have upper body strength. You are stronger than her. And if you're scaring her,
no. I never. No. Okay. When I want to scare somebody, it would be a man.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. No, not with no. Right. So when I get angry, I look the same. Doesn't matter if I'm angry and I want to hurt somebody or if I'm just angry. It looks the same. I look like a demon. I look like a freaking demon. I know I do. I've got a very, very intense. A very intense stare, when I frown, and it's very intense. So I can't help it. When I was talking about that, I was thinking about situations where I've been arguing with men, getting into situations with men, and I've never intentionally intimidated a woman. Okay. I've just reacted and screamed and shouted back, and it looks intimidating.
And of course, hopefully now you're choosing your women, not the same. So a lot of times we get stuck.
I'm choosing my women. Now I'm not choosing women. Now I've been single for 2 years.
We'll think it's a different woman because it's a different rapper, but actually we're choosing the same identical type of a personality, just with a different rapper.
Oh my God!
And the same stuff over and over again.
And I can absolutely testify to that, because even the girlfriend that when I met her, I thought she was completely different. I thought she was totally different to. She was the girl that I met after I left my ex-wife, when I found my ex-wife in bed with my friend. I left her, so got with this new girl, and she was the polar opposite in so many ways to my ex-wife. But after a year, it was the same thing. It was not to the same degree, but it was similar issues.
Yeah, they don't ever seem to be identical, but it's still that leopard just with their spots in a different location on their body.
I don't see.
It's hard. I did that though. What I'm saying is, I would think it would be a whole different guy, different dynamics, but I was picking the same personality with a different rapper, and I gave up. I was like, and then when I met my husband, it was weird because we were put into the same podunk little nothing town from 2 different areas of the United States, the same years at the same time, 3 different times, then in the same workplace. And finally they put him in my freaking living room. And when he came into my living room and sat on my couch, because he was with my friend to pick up her children I was watching, a voice went in my head and said, "You're going to marry that man." And I had an inner battle going on right there and then, because I had decided I would never marry again. But I'm married, and to him, it's just odd. And he is not. I was just choosing the same man in a different wrapper over and over and over again. I had to break out of my cycle. I had to recognize a good thing when it walked and stared me in the face.
I know what my problem was. I know why I ended up with girls with bloody like low self-esteem. It turned out to be low self-esteem and low self-worth. It's almost like when I see somebody that really shouldn't feel like, like a beautiful person that has got low self-esteem. There's nothing sadder than seeing a beautiful, strong person that's just got low self-esteem and doesn't really think that much of themselves. And I'd want to, like with my ex-wife, I knew that she had issues. And it was one of the reasons why I decided I was going to marry her and stay with her, because I thought I can help fix her. I can help bring her self-esteem up. I can help her realize, that she's actually really beautiful. She's a really wonderful person, and she shouldn't hate herself as much as she does. And but it doesn't work like that. You can't fix no one.
No, you can only fix self. And when we are given dominion and we're given the right to reign, we're given the right to reign over just one, and that's self.
Or your dog as well, if you've got a dog.
Uh,
I'm king of this kingdom, and Alfie is unfortunately my subject.
Okay. Oh, you're just being ornery now. Anyways, well, I have to say, you're very in touch with what's going on internally. Obviously, your battles. So the only one that can handle them is you through choice. Everything's choice. You can stay.
I mean, that's one thing I was going to say when you mentioned earlier about it was about your traveling or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was you had to give consent. And we were talking about consenting to transfer energy.
Yes.
Consenting to healing, all those things. And that is because in this realm, because you have dominion, because you have dominion over your own being, you have to consent to everything outside of you. So it's what you consent to, isn't it?
And this isn't just here. It's in every realm. To infinity and beyond. It's
so there's no realm where you have no consent, where you have no. There isn't a realm where you have no choice and no opportunity to say yay or nay.
No such place exists.
Which means that just clarifies again that hell does not exist. Hell is a state of being whilst in this realm.
Yes, I just get done saying that I have walked through hell.
Yeah. Oh God, and yeah, me too. And most of us, we've all been through hell, and that's why we're here now.
No, when I lost my daughter, you want to talk about feeling like a hellish experience here? Yeah, that's it. Never anything so crushing.
But the same with heaven. It's exactly the same with heaven. You can be in heaven, living in the now. Like,
yes, people are walking into the fifth density daily. People are peering into the unseen by some, but they see it. They see it as plain as the nose on their face. Some people look at the sky and see checkerboards. Other people look in the sky and see rainbows and puffy clouds and a beautiful blue sky or purple sky or whatever the phenomena is. It's perception, and it is, where are we? We could be walking side by side, but walking on two completely different paradigms. It is so fascinating to me how complex and unique that this it's perplexing, and it's actually very hard to describe when you've got somebody standing next to you that's like saying, can you want to play tic-tac-toe in the sky? And you're looking up there and you're like, what are you talking about? They don't exist. I don't see what you're seeing. It's because you're occupying a space next to each other, walking side by side, but one of you is walking in the fifth density and seeing into the unseen by the one in the third density, who is still seeing into the third. Well, it's 3D, but it's actually fourth density. 5D is actually sixth density. It's like when it's breadth, width, height, and it's 4. Just like 2D is actually 3. So I'm not trying to make this sound confusing, but one could be looking at a rose that is blooming, and another can be looking at the same plant as a withered up stem that's dying. That's how where we're at this point.
Glass half empty, glass half full, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this is kind of where we're at right now in this progression of moving from the countdown clock ticked, and the process for anyone that had not started prior has started either then or shortly after, or I think they like within 7 years. Everybody to some degree or another is going through this. We're all going through this together. Whether or not we will listen to others' wisdom and experiences and not go down rabbit holes because they've already been there is choice. If we need to have that experience, it's not that that's a right or wrong choice. Have that experience so you can learn, grow, and expand from it. But don't stay in it too long, because why stay so far behind?
That's something that I think I kind of knew instinctively when I was a kid anyway, because I didn't want to follow the path that my parents had laid out for me. And so, it was.
But they didn't know any better.
My parents had always told me you can do anything that you set your mind to. And I don't think they realized what they were saying. I think they only said that because people said that to them. I don't think they really truly understood what that meant. We can do anything that we set our hearts and minds to. I think that's what my mum missed out. She told me I could do anything that I set my mind to, but she didn't say anything about my heart. And Jesus talks about the heart and mind being married, becoming one, then you can move mountains.
And what sits between those two powerhouses? Your voice, your vibration, what comes out of the man's mouth. The man will speak from what's in the man's heart will come out of his mouth. He will speak what's in his heart. What's in him will come from, it'll come up and out of him. So that helps us with discernment, and look for that in any female companion. I mean, listen to the words she's saying and what is going on, because her heart is exposing itself. Notice the fakery on the honeymoon stage right off the bat and walk away. Stay with the authentic, somebody genuine. I tell my husband this all the time. I don't know how I would have made it through all of these things that have transpired over the years without him, because he kind of helped with my balance, my sanity, because some of this stuff that happens to us as we're going through this process, makes you think you're a little off the chains. It's like, what the
The thing
heck?
is, it's the same as that old adage that when the teacher will arrive when the student's ready to be taught. Like when you're ready to learn, then the teacher will arrive. And I think it's the same thing with relationships, that when you're ready, and you both have to be ready, you meet the right person, and it will happen because it was meant. It happened at the right time. But the trouble is, because of the programming that we get put through as kids, and through school and stuff, all I wanted was a relationship. When I fell in love with a girl when I was at school. We went out for a couple of months, and then we split up, and I held a candle for her for like 6 years or something afterwards. But all I wanted, like from the age of 16 or something, all I wanted was to get married and have kids. And so I was desperately trying to find that. And it meant that I was going for people, falling too soon, misreading signs, and not fully understanding the difference between love and lust and all of those things. And so you go into things thinking that you're ready, and thinking that I'm going to get married and I'm going to have kids. But if it's not right, if you're not ready for it, it's not going to work out, is it? It's not going to last. That's the trouble with society, is that everybody's been programmed to do these things like too early or too young, and without fully understanding what it is that you're doing. Like when you get involved with somebody in a relationship, understanding that you're two completely unique, separate beings, and you've got, it's fully appreciating the other person and their right. They're not imposing your will. Because when you're younger, certainly when I was younger, and I had no idea about any of this stuff apart from what I felt, it was I'm sure I imposed my will on people, and on not forcing myself on anybody, but I'm quite a strong personality, so I've always been quite opinionated, and I don't think I was able to. I know I wasn't able to. I would have been an even worse version of what I am now, but more intense and bloody.
I was told that too, that I'm hard-headed and opinionated. I'm thick. Really, I'm not, because I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to weigh it out. I'm willing to especially when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
With my husband, we don't control each other's daily activities. We have no interest in that. We have complete trust in one another. I don't care if he goes to the store. I don't care what he does. His time, he doesn't neither. We don't tell each other how to spend money. The only things that we do discuss are big purchases. Those are the things that we discuss together. Other than that, we just love each other, take care of each other. But what I have found is he is like I don't know, like a enforcer, a warrior, a shield, a protector. So there's something about his essence, because when that thing grabbed me in front of that machine and wouldn't let go of me, and I managed I took all my strength to say something, and he usually slept through before when I would have these weird dreams and stuff. I mean, he sleeps like a rock. Okay. I said his name in a faint whisper, and he woke up, and he just rubbed on my arm. I opened my eyes, and I looked at him, but I really wasn't there. I was still there hassling with that thing that had a hold of me. But just that gave me enough to, and that thing had to let go of me, gave me enough to say what I needed to say, and it immediately had to release me. And it lost all of its illumination and everything. It was odd. But anyways, there's something about my husband, like his what he does. Each of us has giftings. Each of us are able to do anything. Any ability is accessible to everybody. But for some reason, he's stronger in some things where I'm stronger in others. And I don't know. I just feel like
But
he's
that's what makes us unique, though, isn't it? Because if everybody was strong at everything, then this wouldn't be the unique experience that it is. That we wouldn't have to work together, learn. You know, we wouldn't have to.
unity and diversity.
We wouldn't need to unite. The whole point, I think, it's all about complementing each other and
Well, when we go into fifth density, and we are all now looking into that realm, and we're all now seeing the unseen that was unseen by the third, that are all everybody's seeing. And what will happen, it will start to then explore other realms of existence. The whole dynamics of the way that we are, the way that we live, the way that we look at the way things, that life has to be lived in this paradigm, will completely shift. It won't matter if every gift is activated within everybody. We will not care, because of the expansion that will be going on. It will be so interesting, so much to learn, so much expansion, and so much more to grow from. Duality is like kindergarten. If we're still working on, I'm right, you're wrong, I'm going to oppress you until I stomp my ideals into you and you concede. We're in kindergarten.
It's white. You're either with us or against us.
Yeah, that's a kindergartner. Okay, that's kindergarten level stuff. It's time for us to get into college and go for our master's degree.
When I said nursery, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I know. I changed it to plants. I knew what you meant. It's funny that you brought that up, and I have to go again, because that's what you brought up last time, right before I had to go.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Do you know what, Michelle? Because it's 4:10 in the morning here.
Oh boy, let's let us sew it up. You want to give the room a shout out real quick?
Yeah.
Anybody that, before you do, anybody that can spare even a buck, his PayPal link is at the top of the chat. I have pinned it there. And of course, this channel can always use any assistance, to keep us chugging along. But he's in dire straits, looking at possibly being homeless tomorrow. So that's if anybody even has a buck to put into his PayPal, that would be awesome. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really, really wouldn't be posting my PayPal in somebody else's live stream unless it was absolutely kind of desperate. And yeah, I've been told that if I don't come up with some money by tomorrow, then I'm out on my ear. So
and I kind of insisted.
It's a bit of a shit with because my work and everything's been there's no work, there's nothing you can do here, there's no help from the government, there's nothing. I've got absolutely no help from my boss or anyone. The bar's all closed down. It's not going to open up again by the looks of it. So yeah, I'm a bit stuck. But anyway,
government help, they've completely bypassed us. Won't even give us our refunds. They've got nothing.
So nothing. here in Tenerife, they paid everybody. They paid everybody monthly. Everybody still got paid every month, like furlough, like it is in the UK. But this time, well, they stopped it. They said, "Oh, well, yeah, so everybody can go back to work," and they stopped it. But most people didn't have jobs to go back to,
Oh,
and a lot of the places didn't stay open very long anyway because there were no customers. And so the government has rinsed their hands of all responsibility. So some people have been no work for 5 months and no help from the government where they were getting help before. They were getting help before, but now they're not. Me, I've not had any help from day bloody one, so it's no different for me. So I guess I'm in a better position than them in a way, because I've always had to deal with it like this, and they're all having to deal with it now. But yeah, the government isn't helping anybody here now. Nobody.
yeah, we just got skipped. I mean, just completely skipped. Mm-hmm. It's okay because that's
I thought
the
you were going to get
only
it.
thing they can do right now is to try to
Makes
get
things
us
difficult.
in the third dimensional way of trying because if there's nothing they can do in the influential, the spiritual whisperers, or trying to goad us or push us into a direction of going along with their narrative. So they're going to try and use whatever they can, which is only third dimensional. Well, when you know, you don't worry about that kind of stuff anyways. So it's okay. It just means they're losing. Just take it as a victory and you're going to be okay. Everything you say things and then like, boom, all of a sudden something good will happen. I'll get a what's up from you tomorrow saying, Michelle, guess what? You won't believe what happened when I woke up this morning. You know, I'm already knowing that it's coming because that's just how you roll, dude. That's just how it goes. Did you give the room a shout out or are you?
No, I didn't get a chance to. So yeah, who's left? I know Johan's about the only one chatting at the moment.
Say something if you want to shout out. Oh, Michael Fontaine.
Michael Fontaine.
Inner Knowing.
Johannes, Inner Knowing. YOLO. I really liked what YOLO was saying, because came in and talked about exactly what I'd said and saw exactly the same thing that I did, the correlation between the what you were talking about, the war and everything, and the Ramayana or whatever it is from India.
Everybody that's been here has dropped a lot of good information. It's been great.
Is Lee still in? And Dead GPK?
I don't know.
Here, but yeah.
So, sometimes he's at work and he just puts his earbuds in and he like has me in his pocket.
Well, big up Dead. If you've got the earphones on, big up yourself, man. Great videos recently, dude. And yeah, Lee, always good to see you, mate. Debbie, I think that's everyone. Debbie Carson, nice to see you. I don't think I've met you before.
And I hope you guys enjoyed this comparison between.
Oh, look at that! That was 31313 just then.
I hope you enjoyed the comparison between those narratives and the biblical account. Who knows? Everything is, up in the air, but we should learn from our mistakes so we don't repeat them.
Well, like I said again, the most interesting thing about those stories is there's a correlation between the biblical account and that story, and also the Indian, the Vedas, actually describe it much more like
and
you do than the
Bible.
Who
was Cain afraid of? Who? Where were all these people if they were the only people? You know what I mean? There's giveaways everywhere. If you just look, it's right there in plain sight. All right, you guys, this lady here has got to go use the girls' room. This has been absolutely wonderful. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. Sorry, it was a little long-winded. Next time we'll do open format and have some others come on and share what you know so we can all listen and grow. Richie, it's always an honor. You can find his channel on my homepage. Please do subscribe and hit the bell over there. Subscribe here, hit the bell, support where you can. We can all use the help. And hey, seek for anything that you're looking for within.
Seek and you shall find.
It's there. It's always there.